Hello guys. Mega love shoutout sa inyong lahat. Ma'am Ami Cabrera, mega love shoutout sa iyo, Ma'am Ami. Thank you so much, Ma'am Ami. Naku. Ito na naman tayo. $3 million in the house. Thank you so much. Palike lang po. Thank you so much sa inyong lahat. Tara na, panoorin natin.
To interpolate will be the chairman of the Committee on Sports, Senator Bongo. Help.
The gentleman from Davao, Senator Bongo, is recognized for his interpellation.
Last.
Mr. President, first of all, I want to underscore the importance of the 2025 budget in our path towards recovery. We must build back our lives and learn from our experience during the pandemic. In this regard, as chairman of the Committee on Health, I want to continue to emphasize that we must invest more in improving our healthcare system. Having said that, Mr. President, I would like to propound some questions regarding the Department of Finance. Will the good sponsor yield the floor for a few questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
Salamat, Mr. President. As we know, the DOF directed Philhealth to remit to the National Treasury a total of 89.9 billion unutilized funds of Philhealth. Nakaapat na hearing na po tayo sa Committee on Health at naabutan na nga tayo ng temporary restraining order o TRO from the Supreme Court against the transfer of the remaining unused funds of Philhealth to the National Treasury. Naintindihan naman natin na kailangan talaga ng pondo ng Department of Finance. Kailangan nila magwalis ng pondo. Gaya nung panahon ng pandemic, kinailangan talagang magwalis ng mga pondo para magamit sa pandemic, no? Trabaho naman po ng finance manager yan, especially our Secretary of Finance. The DOF said it will respect and abide the Supreme Court's order. May we just know if the 60 billion already transferred to the National Treasury can also be returned? Ano ho bang plano ng DOF dito? Gastos na ba ito? Pwede pa bang maibalik ito? Gaya ng parati kong sinasabi, maybe it's legally lusot, no? But morally, it's unacceptable po sa akin dahil marami pa pong naghihingalong mga pasyente na hindi nga po halos makalabas sa ospital. Walang pambayad sa ospital. At na-discover po natin sa ngayon na sobra-sobra po ang pondo ng Philhealth. During our first hearing, which our Secretary of Finance attended, doon po natin na-discover na meron pang 500 billion na reserve fund ang Philhealth. Habang naghihingalo po ang ating mga pasyente, hindi makalabas sa ospital, yung iba ayaw na pong magpa-hospital dahil takot sa babayaran sa hospital. Hindi po ito katanggap-tanggap sa atin na naghihingalo pa itong mga pasyente at sobra-sobra po ang pera ng Philhealth. Kaya nakaapat na hearing na po ako sa Senado, Mr. President, sa Committee on Health. At pinipilit natin, pinipiga natin ang Philhealth to improve their services. At marami tayong na-discovering polisiya ng Philhealth tulad ng single period of confinement policy na bawal pong magpa-admit sa same na sakit within 3 months. Kalokohan naman po yun. Mapigilan ba natin magka-diarrhea, bleeding, pneumonia? Sobra-sobra nga yung pera ng Philhealth. Na-discover rin natin itong 24-hour admission o requirements nila na kailangan magpa-admit ka ng 24-hour para i-cover ng Philhealth. Kalokohan rin po yun. But hindi mo na lang gamitin yung pondo kung magpapa-admit ka ng 24 hours. yung pambayad mo sa kwarto, pambayad mo na lang sa mga medisina. So nangako naman ang PhilHealth na pag-aaralan nila itong pulisiyang ito. At nakiusap rin tayo sa PhilHealth to expand benefit packages including dental, yung sa mata, check-up, early detection, at iba pang mga sakit, no? Expand benefit packages, increase case rates, at meron rin tayong naipasa dito sa Senado with our presiding officer, ang principal sponsor. Ito pong amending the Universal Healthcare Law. Sana po ma-reduce na po ang premium contribution starting next year. Kung pumasa po ito, I'm sure dadaan rin po ito sa Department of Finance na from 5% to 3.25 kung maisabatas po itong amending the Universal Healthcare Law. Babawasan po yung premium contribution from 5 to 3.25% dahil sobra-sobra nga po ang pera ng PhilHealth. Anyway, ang tanong ko naman po sa inyo, yung 30 billion na hindi pa po na-transfer sa Treasury, maaari po ba itong gamitin pa ng PhilHealth para sa health, para ma-improve pa ang kanilang serbisyo at hindi na tuluyang makuha at mawalis pa ng Department of Finance? Mr. President, patuloy po ang panawagan natin sa PhilHealth na huwag hayaan yung matenga po ang kanilang pondo at gamitin nila ito na mapalakas pa ang kanilang serbisyo. Expand medical services, gamitin niyo po ito sa mga mahirap nating pasyente. After consistent and continuous appeals and numerous Senate Health Committee hearings, PhilHealth has officially committed to assure implementation of its promises, such as recommending the reduction of premium contributions, increasing case rates, especially for the top 10 mortality diseases, expansion of benefit packages, provision of free medicines and assistive devices, such as eyeglasses and wheelchairs, inclusion of dental, visual, emergency, and preventive care, as well as updating policies to meet the needs of our people, such as their promise to remove its 24-hour confinement rule. Our relentless scrutiny has already led to the scrapping of PhilHealth's flawed single period of confinement policy. Aside from that, Mr. President, PhilHealth is asking Congress for additional subsidy amounting to 74 billion for 2025. The committee report reflected a decrease of 5 billion, which was realigned to be used primarily for additional support to specialty hospitals. In line with this initiative, may we ask from the good sponsor if we could also realign additional budget for the operations of DOH hospitals. Marami pong mga DOH hospitals ang nabawasan po ng pondo. Marami po akong nakakausap sa kakaikot ko po sa mga hospital. Ang reklamo nila, nababawasan po sila ng pondo, sa lalong-lalo na yung pantulong sa mga mahirap. Well, sobra-sobra naman po ang pera ng PhilHealth. Bakit natin sila bibigyan ng almost 70?
Tama. Actually,
Mr. President.
Mr. President, actually, thank you for displaying, putting all of those things out in the open. And thank you to our secretary here na dahil sa kanya, nalaman natin may reserbang pondo. At sa inyong suggestion, Mr. President, kay Senator Go, kasi nga sinasabi nga niya itong PhilHealth hindi ginagastos. Bakit hindi lagay sa mga specialty hospitals? Ang sagot po doon, kahit naman kami frustrated, kasi nasa batas kasi na a certain percentage of collections from tobacco and also high sugary drinks dapat mapunta talaga sa high beverages,
Sugary.
sweetened beverages ay mapunta sa PhilHealth. So parang nandun tayo nakapako dun sa batas na yon na kahit ginagamit nila o hindi, pero siguro pwede tayo magkaroon siguro ng special provision na PhilHealth should be able to disburse this much to specialty hospitals.
Not only to specialty hospitals, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, pati po sa mga DOH hospitals, andun halos yung mga mahirap nating kababayan, lalong-lalo na po sa Mindanao at Visayas, mga DOH hospitals. Wala nga silang kulang yung MOOE nila. At yun po ang parating reklamo nila sa sobrang dami po ng pasyente, nagre-request po sila ng additional budget para dito sa mga DOH hospitals. Not only limited sa mga specialty hospitals such as NKTI, Heart Center. Nabasa ko nga, nabanggit nyo po na you realign some budget from Philhealth to specialty hospitals. Baka pwedeng isama nyo rin po yung mga ibang hospitals, government hospitals, mga DOH hospitals, nabawasan sila, na-slash po yung budget nila. Bakit tayo magdadagdag ng pondo sa PhilHealth?
Na ang daming pera.
Ang dami nilang pera, 500 billion, Madam Sponsor.
Hindi, ganito nga po, Mr. President. Kahit na ayaw natin na dagdagan, nasa batas kasi na yung porsyento ng kinikita doon sa mga sugary drinks at saka sa mga vape products at tobacco, meron silang per porsyento. So kahit na gusto natin bawasan, hindi pwede. Pero ang pwede natin sigurong gawin dahil ang ating Secretary of Finance ay miyembro ng komite dito sa PhilHealth na sinasabi, a certain amount from the PhilHealth savings should be allotted to the following hospitals in the fiscal year 2025. Pwede kaya yun? Pwede. So, imbis na idadagdag natin dito sa budget, doon na sila kukuha.
Naintindihan ko naman kaya lumulobo po yung pera ng PhilHealth. Sabi niya, meron ngang 500 billion na reserve fund.
Tama.
Dahil ito sa mga taxes na pumapasok. Ang tanong ko, bakit natin bibigyan ng 74 billion ang PhilHealth
Kasi
na
nga
pwede
nasa
natin
batas.
i-allocate dun sa mga hospitals?
Mr. President, kasi nga nasa batas na hindi natin pwedeng babaan ang ibibigay sa kanila kung mataas ang koleksyon ng buwis sa mga tobacco at saka sugary drinks. Kahit na sabihin natin hindi pwede, ayaw natin ibigay, nasa batas na nakalagay, kailangan bigyan nyo sila ng 50% na kinolekta ninyo mula sa buwis ng sugary drinks.
Correct, Madam Sponsor.
Pero pwede natin,
But last year, Madam Sponsor,
baka pwede naman,
last year po, 40 billion po ang binawas ng Congress sa proposed budget ng PhilHealth. Hindi ba natin pwedeng gawin rin po dito?
okay, so special provision.
Opo.
Pwede
Ilagay natin
ninyong-
sa health talaga, diretsyong tulong sa mga
O
mahirap.
sige po,
Kasi ang takot ko rito, Madam Sponsor, baka next year, pag sumobra na naman ang reserve fund ng PhilHealth dahil sa collection ng taxes, dahil sa batas na ipinasa natin, baka mawalis na naman po ito.
okay. So yung suggestion ninyo, Mr. President, oo. Hindi, maraming salamat actually kay Senator Bongo, Mr. President. So ang sinasabi ninyo, kasi nga naintindihan ninyo na talagang wala tayong choice, kaya nilagay natin yon initially, pwede ngang amyendahan na maglalagay ng special provision or yung allocation mismo.
Gaya ng ginawa
I-propose
nyo-
na lang ninyo.
Opo, Madam Sponsor, gaya ng ginawa nyo, pinropose nyo
Oo.
po to specialty hospitals,
Oo.
baka pwede naman po aside from specialty hospital, isama po natin yung mga government hospitals,
Okay.
DOH hospitals.
Sige po.
Dahil sila yung nakakala. There are around almost 72 DOH hospitals sa
Okay.
buong Pilipinas. Aside
Sige.
from these specialty hospitals.
Maganda yan. Siguro at the proper time, dun sa period of amendment, or isubmit na po ninyo yung, Mr. President, yung inyong amendments para doon, para ma-incorporate na natin sa budget.
Alam nyo, Madam Sponsor, ang guro natin yan dito full support naman po ako always sa ating Department of Finance at malaki po ang tiwala ko sa ating Secretary of Finance. Taas ang respeto ko po dyan. Ang pakiusap ko lang po, Madam Sponsor, and also sa ating Secretary of Finance, sana po itong PhilHealth talaga. PhilHealth, kaya nga po may health Gamitin po natin sa health. Habang naghihingalo yung mga pasyente, nakikita ko talaga, pumunta kayo sa mga hospital, hindi makalabas, nagmamakaawa. Bakit sila nagmamakaawa sa mga hospital billing? Tayo na didiscover natin, 500 billion reserve fund natutulog. nawawalis na lang po habang namamatay yung mga pasyente.
If I may interject with the intelligence of Senator Bongo, being the principal sponsor of the UHC and with our our secretary Ralph Recto as the principal author, hindi naman natin masisisi ang DOF no in this whole controversy. I think it's really PhilHealth who is at fault kasi dapat po ginagastos nila yung pondong yan. And I would think that if they improve the case rates, yung pong 70 billion, kulang pa ho yun kung lahat ng pasyente, alam niyo po yun,
Kaya
na
nga-
nangangailangan ay talagang binigyan nila ng tamang pondo. I think they have failed in the adjustments of case rates. So I think it's about time that we really have to convene our oversight committee as to where the shortcomings were. So
Correct. Actually, naka-apat na hearings na po ako dito sa Committee on Health no sa Senado. At nangako sila expand nila yung case rates nila, 9,000 case rates. Pinag-aaralan pa raw nila. Marami po mga pulisiya sila na 2013 pa katulad ng single period of confinement policy.
I agree.
Ba't tayo pa ang makadiskubre dito? Sila nga yung mga doktor, dapat sila yung mga nakadiskubre. At ang membro naman po ang DOF ng PhilHealth Board. Pakitulong na lang po, Secretary Recto, para gamitin nila yung pondo ng PhilHealth para hindi nakatenga dyan at natutulog habang yung mga pasyente naghihingalo at nangangailangan po ng tulong. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Yun lang po yung tanong ko kanina. Yun bang na-transfer na, mababalik pa po ba yun o nagastos na po ito at may babalik pa ba ito?
At hindi kasama sa utos sa Supreme Court.
Hindi kasama sa utos ng Supreme Court. So,
Ano man ang
kung ano man ang sasabihin ng Supreme Court, susundin naman natin.
So, ibig sabihin po na part na po ito na naibalik sa National Treasury at maaring nagastos na.
Nagamit na actually para sa pagbayad sa mga healthcare workers nung pandemic na hindi nabayaran. So, at least kahit pa paano may porsyento pa rin napunta dun sa...
So, itong 30 billion na hindi pa na-transfer, patuloy po itong gagamitin ng PhilHealth.
Yes.
Yes.
Since
Ay,
since
patuloy pa rin nakatenggad sa kanila.
nakatenga.
Matutulog pa rin.
No,
Kaya nga, sana po, Secretary Recto, tulungan niyo po ang PhilHealth. Bilang membro po kayo ng PhilHealth Board, along with the Department of Health Secretary. Pakitulungan na lang po sila. And I'm sure, being the one of the authors and sponsor ng Universal Healthcare, we are very, very, very far yet sa full implementation ng Universal Healthcare habang nakatenga natutulog yung pondo ng PhilHealth dyan. Kawawa yung Pilipino. Thank you. This would enable us to progressively realize universal healthcare in the country and to ensure that all Filipinos are guaranteed equitable access to quality and affordable healthcare. That is all, Mr. President. I am confident that under the capable leadership of Secretary Ralph Recto, we will be able to manage our government resources more efficiently. Full support naman po ako sa inyo, sir. Thank you po, Mr. President.
Thank you to our Chair of the Committee on Health, Senator Bongo.
24,980,000 pesos. Mr. President, in the past years, during the budget season, we have always tried to be sustainable but also resilient to future challenges, all while considering intergenerational fairness. This is the idea that the needs of the present generation should be met without compromising the needs of future generations. I extend our gratitude to our chairman of the Committee on Finance, Senator Po, for granting some of the committee's proposals, some of which include additional funding for the increased teachers' allowance, additional funding for the department's 8-week literacy and numeracy program, additional funding to support our teachers and learners, who are also granted for textbook and other instructional materials. And as part of our goal of improving learning outcome and access for education, electrification of our schools was also made a priority by allocating more funding. There's also more funding for feeding programs, Mr. President. We acknowledge the presence of our former colleague, now DepEd Secretary Angara, who is making so much stride in the few months that he has held the office, and we're very honored to defend his budget, knowing fully well that our colleagues will also honor that and not ask too many questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Yes, we would like to welcome our former colleague, Secretary Angara, and likewise, I'm very proud of him. Probably when he left our alma mater, he took it to heart to become a real man for others. Thank you and welcome back.
We're ready for interpellations, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Greetings to the Secretary of Education, Secretary Angara, and of course to the good sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano. First of all, let me thank the good sponsor for accepting our amendments to improve the budget of the Department of Education. Some of our amendments that were approved was an increase of 500 million for the school electrification program. As we all know, some of our schools are still left in the dark, and I'd like to thank the good sponsor for adding 500 million to the school electrification program. Would like to also thank the good sponsor for adding 300 million to textbooks and other instructional materials. Being a former member of the EDCOM, Senator Pia knows exactly the problems of our textbooks, and I thank her for increasing 300 million to that account. We also thank her for increasing 500 million for the training of our teachers for the implementation of the Matatag curriculum. We are now in the middle of implementing the Matatag curriculum, and we are expanding it this coming school year. And during our school visitation and our interaction with our teachers, one of their requests, and remember this clearly, is training so that they will fully understand and be fully equipped in implementing the Matatag curriculum. So I thank the good sponsor for adding 500 million to the training program for the Matatag curriculum. And then I'd like to also thank the good sponsor for adding 200 million to the school-based feeding program. And I understand that the desire of the Department of Education is to have universal feeding program for kindergarten and stage 1, no? Or kindergarten. For kindergarten, and this is actually a commendable achievement to roll out a universal feeding program for our kindergarten students. And I remember experiencing, when I was a mayor, experiencing this phenomena we're in when students are stopped being fed during summer holidays. Their nutrition regresses, and they go back to their malnourished state. So this universal feeding program will enable them to withstand that 2-month summer slide in terms of nutrition. So, Mr. President, good sponsor, would like to just appeal a few items, and this will come in the form of a manifestation, Mr. President, and the good sponsor can give us some of her thoughts on this. Would like to thank the department for now fully implementing one of the most important laws that we enacted here in the Senate, and this is the Excellence in Teacher Education Act, wherein we empowered the Teacher Education Council and gave it more powers to make sure that the pre-service education and also in-service training are aligned, and in-service teaching are also aligned to the pre-service curriculum. And I'd like to thank the department for operationalizing this through the Teacher Education Council. However, when we were looking at the budget to fully roll out the Teacher Education Council, to fully empower the Teacher Education Council, they would need additional positions. And when we consulted with the Teacher Education Council, they requested for additional 28 position. In the request to DBM, they requested 28 additional positions so that they will effectively do their job. And this amounts to about 28 million pesos, Mr. President. And of course, in addition to that, they also requested the DBM an additional 30 million pesos for their operations and for their activities, Mr. President. So an additional of 58 million pesos was requested to the DBM. Unfortunately, that was not carried by the DBM. So, Mr. President, this representation is appealing to the good sponsor and to the good sponsor for this additional 58 million pesos to fully equip the Teacher Education Council. I truly believe that this is a low-hanging fruit and an immediate reform in terms of strengthening and empowering our teachers, especially when it comes to training, also in locating good potential teachers to come into the system. And the Teacher Education Council has a lot of powers to improve the teaching capabilities of our education system, Mr. President. So I would like to put that on the table, and hopefully at the proper time we will submit our recommendation to her honor, to the good sponsor, Mr. President. Mr. President, another manifestation, and also this is quite close to the heart of Senator Joel, unfortunately he's not here with us, is to fully operationalize the Philippine Qualification Framework as mandated by law in 2017. And they also requested an additional of 35 million pesos to the DBM. Unfortunately, it was not carried. And the 35 million pesos supposed to hire 35 additional personnel so that they can beef up their team and they can operationalize the secretariat. This operationalization of the secretariat has been delayed for many, many years. And I remember, I'm sure the good secretary remembers this, whenever we talk to Senator Joel, this is one of his requests to already implement and operationalize the secretariat of the PQF. And I'm also happy to hear from the department that they have now plans to fully operationalizing the secretariat, but unfortunately, the funds are not adequate to do so. So, Mr. President, at the proper time, I will also request Her Honor an amount of 35 million pesos to operationalize the PQF Secretariat. Mr. President, I have a few more items, but I will just send to Her Honor in writing those requests that we feel that is also necessary to improve the budget of the Department of Education. But those two are actually the most immediate and the most important that we feel that we should augment so that these two important laws will be fully operationalized this coming year, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. President, I don't have any more manifestations. And again, I thank the good sponsor for accepting our suggestions and augmenting some of the most important programs in the education sector. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. President. We assure His Honor that we will prioritize these two, well, at least the two that he mentioned, and we'll take a look at the others in the list he intends to submit to us. And we'll make space for whatever we can. Those two are very much aligned also with our priorities, so we're happy to give whatever support we can.
Maraming salamat. Thank you to
And the Secretary extends his support, his gratitude.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian.
Oh, yeah.
Gusto ko i-isin na manifestation.
Sino next?
Basahin ko?
Opo, yung
Okay.
sa tayo on.
Sige.
I believe the next to interpolate is our minority leader, Senator Aquilino Coco-Pimentel.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of our sponsor, we know the department is in very good and capable hands. So our interpellation on the department's budget would be simply for transparency's sake. Kasi marami naman nakasubaybay na mga kababayan natin. Can you check ilan ang nag-view sa live streaming natin? So at least this is for them, no? For them.
Minority Floor Leader, si Secretary Angara, very active siya sa Instagram.
Yeah.
Yung asawa niyo mas active kaysa sa inyo. So nandun lahat ng update niya, mababasa niyo doon. Ako na nagsasabi. Transparent siya doon.
So in the interest of time then, because I want the Filipino people to be involved in the budget process. They should be interested. They should also understand the system more kasi hanggang ngayon nga hindi pa naman natin 100% naintindihan tong ating budget process, Mr. President. So in the interest of time, this representation also received a transmittal from the Second Congressional Commission on Education. It's dated today, so November 7, 2024. With some proposed amendments. So siguro if the sponsor will allow it, I'll just forward this letter to her. It contains 5 proposed amendments. Basahin ko na lang yung general topic. Number 1, the same raised by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Teacher Education Council Secretariat. Number 2, the same raised by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Permanent Secretariat of the Philippine Qualifications Framework National Coordinating Council. But here, number 3, special provision for the 206.7 million added in the budget of the National Nutrition Council. Number 4, special provision for the NC3 in early childhood education under TESDA. Number 5 is construction of childhood development centers in 48 barangays located in priority 5th and 6th municipalities that currently do not have a single daycare center as mandated by law. So I will just be submitting this to Her Honor in the interest of saving time. Is that okay with you?
It is okay. I just have very quick response
Yes,
for His Honor. I'm happy to inform you that they're all, of course, you have no issue with our also recognizing those as priority items. The Secretary will be very happy with all of this if we can find fiscal space. But I do want to point out that with respect to the item on nutrition, that is under the budget of the National Nutrition Council, which I will also be defending and be happy to support. It is one of the items that I also was supporting when I was still in EDCOM. So that's in the DOH budget.
DOH budget,
Yeah.
yes.
And then one last item on the support for the 5th item, the support for child development centers in the 48 barangays located in priority 5th and 6th municipalities. Every single year we budget for this, no? Because I started sponsoring the budget of DepEd during the pandemic, most of the reasons given for the delay in the implementation was the pandemic. But I think even last year there were still delays. So I'm very happy to support it. It's just that we have to make sure that they get built. But I do have exciting news for everyone. Secretary Kiko Benitez has made a special request for a certification program to be put together by TESDA for daycare. I don't know the exact title, but National Certification for Early Childhood Education under TESDA, which is again something I've been pushing for because we cannot fill those daycare centers overnight. But we will now be certifying senior high school students who are interested in an education track to have qualifications to run this, or eventually, maybe they'll take the certification, then through a ladderized education, which is also a law that we passed, they can become full teachers. So there's a lot of things happening to address this need, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. As member of the EDCOM 2, Mr. President, I'm also taking my responsibility seriously. So I took the initiative of meeting with the teachers, public school teachers in the city of Marikina, and had a no-holds-barred dialogue with them. I actually summarized, I may not have captured all of the issues that they raised, but at least some of the issues that they raised in a letter to our secretary. But for the record, one concern is, for example, the guidelines for promotions are not being followed properly, with instances where individuals have secured high-ranking positions without passing the required qualifying exams. Is that possible, Mr. President? So, for example, siguro we'll apply it. A principal a person can be appointed principal without taking the national qualifying exam for school heads. Is that possible?
So they do have guidelines specifically to address this, to prevent this from happening, but it has happened. And when they find out, they deal with it as precisely those guidelines are there so they can be followed. And they're happy to look into this Marikina incident or cases.
They also expressed concern over the school division's lack of transparency regarding financial reports, particularly those related to the Special Education Fund. The Federation President has disclosed that sometimes she has been asked to sign financial documents without sufficient transparency as to their contents. May we know what role the DepEd or the Secretary can play in increasing transparency related to the Special Education Fund?
Mr. President, the control of the fund is with the LGU.
Correct.
But given that it is a special fund for education, the DepEd really has instructions to the teachers. They give them basic rules, no? Like do not sign anything in blank. In case of any questions, magtanong muna kayo bago kayo pumirma. And if there are any concerns, of course they can report to them. But it is an LGU fund, and it is subject to COA din.
But the chair is an employee of the DepEd
The chair.
or a ranking member?
Co-chair po ang superintendent, but I think the reality is it would be the mayors who would call the shots. So pag may inutos na okay, edi okay. Pag may inutos na hindi okay, then I guess naiipit sila. But DepEd is assuring us that they are instructing
Thank you.
the superintendent and all to be non-partisan.
Yes.
And not to sign
and
these
maybe
anomalous
to also value that concept of transparency,
Yes.
of the right of the other members of the board to know. To meet, siguro. Not do everything via referendum, na pirma-pirma na lang. siguro the actual meetings must be held, Mr. President. Kung pwedeng ano lang ba, yung exhortation from the Department of Education.
It's duly noted, and the secretary
Thank you.
said they will push for that.
Is there a maximum residency rule on the tenure of school heads? Because the allegation also in Marikina is that some have exceeded the maximum residency rule, and this has been disregarded on many occasions.
Yeah, there's a 5-year residency rule, Mr. President.
Is that a
ba,
very
5-year
strict rule? Is that a
residency, 5-year
strict
cap?
rule?
Strict
Ba yan na talaga no one should exceed the 5 years? So sometimes you allow service beyond the 5 years?
Very well. Or minsan walang magaling.
It is a soft rule, Mr. President, because sometimes the school is performing exceedingly well, or there may not be anyone capable in maybe in the far-flung areas. It is an old law, so of course it can always be revisited by the new. It's not a law, no? It's a rule. It's an internal rule. Department order. So of course they can revisit that anytime, but I think at the end of the day, what's best for the school and the students. If there is negative feedback, of course, then they will act on it and enforce the 5-year rule firmly.
Hindi, my point is kung may nababasa kasi nila may 5-year rule and then may
Tapos hindi nga
napapansin nila na
So it is a
may
soft
lumalabas, they might feel na may favoritism or whatever,
Yeah.
may connection na ginamit. So in a nearby in a place near the center or in a city in the center of the country, siguro we should apply the rule, because if it's applied in the far-flung areas, there must be some other reasons why we cannot get a replacement.
Yeah. They look kasi the reality is they look at the whole division because they do rotations. I mean, assume
Yes,
there's no reason. It's not meant to be a demotion. It's meant to just follow the rule and rotate them. But sometimes the rotation is not a practical step forward because a small school principal may not be able to handle a big school. So then they have to decide what's best for the students.
But I'm sure hindi sila nakukulangan sa tao or willing to take on the challenge. Sige, pakitingin na lang po, Mr.
Yes.
President.
They will.
And then I will not name names because I don't want to embarrass people, but there are also charges of nepotism because mga family members have secured positions within the division. If we can take a look at this, Mr. President.
They will take a look at that, Mr. President.
Yes. And then some additional concerns. Ito, applicable siguro to kahit sa outside of Marikina City. Teachers with full teaching loads, 6 hours per day, are still being assigned ancillary services, contrary to regulations. So, number one, is that the full teaching load, is it 6 hours a day? Tama po ba yun? Yung feedback sa akin. And is the assignment of ancillary services really contrary to regulations?
Per DepEd Order number 5, series of 2024, teacher ancillary tasks refer to work incidental to a teacher's normal teaching duties like preparation of lesson plans and check of exercises. This is performed by our teachers in the remaining 2 hours that complete their 8-hour day. So I think that's one that should be clear, no, na
so
pasok pa yan.
Yeah, pasok pa yan.
Then the overload is applicable to excess in teaching loads of teachers. In such cases, they are compensated by teaching overload pay. Regardless of whether a teacher has overload hours or not, they are all expected to perform teacher ancillary tasks since these are incidental to their teaching load.
And a full teaching load is 6 hours. Tama po yun?
Is 6
Tama.
hours.
Maximum. Okay. Ang second additional concern is that ito po, iba to ha, paki-relay na lang po rin. At i-raise din natin ito pag humarap sila sa atin. The Department of Information and Communications Technology public Wi-Fi in schools is not functioning properly. So, of course, siguro we did the DepEd. Meron ba kayong feedback system na do you also get that feedback? Ano, so it's functioning? Oh, no, okay. So that's part of what was shared to me, Mr. President. So. Nag-work sa inyo? Sa Valenzuela, nag-work? Nag-work sa
Yeah.
Valenzuela?
So, the vice chairman handling the budget of DICT is hereby notified of DICT's lack of performance.
But, yes.
And of course, I joined the secretary in his appeal for DICT to prioritize these areas with high student populations, because they are very much affected. And sila talaga yung gusto natin makinabang sa Wi-Fi, hindi lang yung entertainment, no? I mean, with all due respect, we all deserve our entertainments in whatever form, but the purpose of that Wi-Fi is really for education purposes and perhaps work purposes. So, I'm looking at the
So
vice chairman.
At least we have been given this feedback, Mr.
Yes,
President.
thank you for the
Madam-
feedback.
Yes. And then the teachers are requesting a 1-to-1 ratio of teaching resources, particularly laptops or computers. So relay lang po ako ng request.
Trabaho na po ng congressman yon na susunod na congressman sa distrito ng Marikina.
Wala tayo sa budget na ganyan program.
Meron
What is
po.
the ratio? What's
Yeah,
the ratio?
we
Yeah,
have
but is it 1-to-1 na?
I mean, parang school building din yan. We have a big backlog kasi recently pa lang naman tayo nagko-computerize, Mr. President.
And then one more observation shared with this representation is that the selection process for training and seminars has been in favor of individuals based on personal connections rather than qualifications. So we just asked the department to take a look into that. Siyempre parang ano yata yan eh, when you attend a training or a conference, it's a plus for you in your record. So siguro ang observation nila paulit-ulit or may pabor-pabor sa pagpili kung sino yung makaka-attend sa seminar.
Yes, noted. The secretary will make sure that they look into this and have a fair policy, implement fair policies.
So, Mr. President, just to save time, kasi my staff noticed a lot of entries in the COA report for the year 2023. Hindi naman po time ni Secretary Angara yon. So, kung pwedeng hingi na lang kami on how the department intends to address the issues raised by COA in the latest COA report, diba?
Yeah.
So, okay po.
The secretary said they will furnish
writing,
us also with the response or how they're responding to that.
So I just noticed in the budget for the DepEd, I noticed a 30 billion increase. So saan po to papunta, Mr. President?
3 billion lang po, 3.
3?
From last year, I think he's talking about.
From last year.
GAA 2024, 715 billion, Office of the Secretary, and now NEP, NEP 745, so 30 billion. Pero sa committee report pala natin, 748 billion. So a 33 billion peso increase from last year's. From last year's GAA level. So may we know where the 33 billion will be placed, Mr. President?
From last year? This is mostly PS. So hiring, is it a salary increase? So it's mostly salary increase, not new hires. New hires and salary increase, or mostly salary increase? Yeah, mostly PS salary increases in particular.
Okay. Hindi pa masyado malaki yun.
Ano pong malaking item? What?
Po yung 30 billion na ito.
Okay.
Ito po yung lista.
Okay. We have a list. We can give His Honor a
sige po.
complete breakdown.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, okay
Just
na.
give you the
Yes,
breakdown.
submission of the
I have
list.
here a breakdown.
Yes.
Okay.
But I noticed also some decreases. Tama po ba to?
Pero tama, Mr. President, the biggest is really the
Sweldo.
personnel benefits, 579 million of the
Yes.
of the 30 billion. But we, as I said, we can give.
Yes. In
Medyo
writing.
ang dami. There's like a 1.5 page
Apa.
of different programs, but that is the biggest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor. So,
Pabigyan natin ng kopya.
in the inclusive education program, I noticed a decrease in the indigenous people's education. 154 million, now 74 million. Tama po ba yun?
From GAC to me.
GAA to NEP yun. GAA to NEP.
So the gap. So tapos yung Senate version same as that. So restore tayo to NEP version. Yeah. So we're back to the NEP version, Mr. President.
GAA to NEP.
Nagbalik tayo.
What did we do with the NEP level in the committee report? In-increase natin?
We added 80 million.
So bumalik nga.
Bumalik,
That's the,
yes.
okay, so thank
Yes.
you for that clarification. And ito siguro isang good news naman. Was this maintained in the committee report? Implement under support to schools and learners program. Implementation of the grant of cash allowance, hardship pay, and reclassification of positions. Last year, 9.8 billion for this year, 2024, 9.8 billion. For next year, 19.7 billion. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
additional 10 billion.
Yes.
Yes, okay. For the,
Kasi ang hirap talagang magpaano
yes.
eh.
For the teachers ito, sa teachers to pupunta.
Oo, yes.
Sa teachers, yes. Very good. Very good news for our teachers.
And partly is to implement the career progression. So new positions were created. Teacher 4, Teacher 5, Teacher 6. So yun nga. So parang maging exciting naman yung career path nila.
As announced by the President in the SONA. Ayan po. Yun po ba yun ang mangyari ngayon? You can have a career running the school or governing the school, and then you have a career teaching. Ganun po ang mangyari.
Or both.
Or both.
You can be a principal and still choose to teach, unlike before.
Is it possible?
It's one or the other.
So then before you either run the school or teach. Yun yung before. Now may hybrid tayo that you can be both
If they want.
Okay. So thank you for the clarification. Now I understand it better, Mr. President. Ito pong ating special needs education. Ito ba yung is this special education? Ito ba yun for the special children?
Yes.
Children with special. So what did we do here, Mr. President? What are the budget levels for this?
Dito proposed na kasi yun sa
Dagdagan po yung
Senate version.
Sorry pa, 1 billion siya. Oo, 1 B. 1 B na po siya PLC.
Same ba tayo as GAB? 1.04. So we kept it
12 billion.
Yeah. So to compare, Mr. President, the 2024 GAA is 999 million. And then the NEP was lower by, it's 843.85 million. But the GAB now that we support is 104 billion. So we increased by about 200
Thank you.
from the NEP.
Thank you. Maganda po yan kasi that's in the implementation of the Inclusive Education Act.
Yes.
Yung for a very long time, ang budget natin for textbook and other instructional materials mga 1 billion. Then I think for 2024 ba yung naging 12 billion? For 2023 was it 1 billion? Only 1 billion?
Tama ba yung recollection ko na?
Well, rounding it off 1 billion.
Is it the same? Is it the same?
Okay, so okay.
Slightly higher.
Okay. So what happened in 2023, they were reviewing the curriculum. That's why there was no there was no request for a big budget. And then in 2024, we implemented it. So the budget was 12 billion. And now it's almost the same but slightly higher by about 400 million. 400 million higher, Mr. President.
Sige po. Sige po. I just hope that yung mga problems in the procurement of textbooks na overcome na po ng DepEd kasi alam ko maraming problema diyan eh.
Yes.
May away-away pa ba? Mr. Secretary, nagkakasuhan pa ba yung mga losing bidder versus the winning bidder diyan? Hindi na. Sana hindi na nga. Okay. But ito po feedback lang to sa akin kaninang umaga na ito known to us ang nagreklamo. Mayroon daw silang nagpaparinig daw yung PTA ba nagparinig? PTA? PTA school. Ha? Hindi, sino nagparinig sa parent? PTA. Na meron tayong isang magulang na napaparinggan na kailangan mag-donate sa pagpintura ng classroom. So yung parang yung nagsumbong sa amin talagang ang feeling nila na-force hindi. So but ano po natin yan, i-discourage po natin kung pwede, Mr. President.
Yes, the secretary said that these things cannot be compelled. If they want to volunteer, they're welcome, but otherwise, no force, no pressure. Okay, and they even have a DepEd policy memo number 41 reiterating the no collection policy in schools.
So okay, so tsaka paulit-ulit na rin po yata yan. Dapat alam na ng teachers yan, but PTAs are not expected to follow the spirit behind the circular.
Yeah. The teachers know that they should also not be compelling the parents to have to do anything beyond what they want to do.
So you're sure that's something.
Yeah.
Pero wala na tayong control sa parents.
Parents to parents.
Oo.
That's the anyway. Sige, the teachers. No, teachers are members of PTA. So when they hear the parents saying this, siguro. Suggest na lang tayo sa teachers na i-discourage na lang po nila kasi meron po talaga kaming kilala ng office namin na na-pressure. Tinanong ko yung nanay, na-pressure daw talaga sila. Nagbigay ba? Hindi naman. Ha? O nag-donate nga, sir. Nag-donate. Well, anyway, sir, the Teacher Education Scholarship Program under RA 11713 financially supports aspiring teachers. This law was passed in 2021. Do we have funding for this in the NEP 2025? Teacher Education Scholarship.
Nasa CHED siguro yan. No?
CHED.
Nasa CHED, which I also
Yes.
chair. So we can, can report to you on that. But I'm pretty sure we have.
Yes, thank you. Sa CHED pala ito. So that would be all for the DepEd for me.
Thank
but
you.
for the other agencies, I still have questions.
For the attached agency.
Yes, for the other.
Yes,
attached
go ahead.
agencies. But
Let's proceed.
Secretary will stay. Okay.
Yeah, he will stay. Of course.
The budget for the establishment of the National Child Development Centers will increase by 55 million. Okay, so these are meant to be given to LGUs for them to to build the centers. Ito pa ba? 55 million. So
Yes.
the total amount will now be 276.9 million pesos. Tama po ba yan?
Three 94.98 po sa kami. Tama po.
Compared to,
GAA by 25 billion.
the 2024 GAA is 315 million. The NEP for 2025 is 353. The GAB is 375. Of course, iniisa-isa ko to because the highest is our committee report, 394.98. Yeah, so that is our proposal. It was carried. Yes, so that was carried by the Committee on Finance.
Are the LGU recipients already predetermined?
Yes, we do not recommend if they do not go through the checklist kasi from our experience with all these agencies, babalik lang yan sa atin na hindi pa prepared yung
So,
lupa, may problema pa sa location, etc.
So may listahan na po, apo.
Yes.
Thank you. Now going to the National Academy of Sports. It has already been 4 years since the National Academy of Sports law was passed, but the NAS System Board of Trustees has yet to comply with the mandate to formulate the policies, guidelines, and criteria to rationalize the establishment, administration, and operation of the sports high schools. Actually, this was one of the issues I quietly raised with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian in the bill on the Baguio City Sports High School. Na wala pa. Is it a fact? Is it a fact that wala pa pong policies, guidelines, and criteria from the National Academy of Sports?
This is for the operation of the out.
Ano ito? Saan ito nanggaling? Saan galing? Based on your performance indicator, saan galing? Wala pa siya. Wala. No.
So right now they are in consultation with the various stakeholders, the different LGUs, the parents, and they hope to have, what do you call it? The first initial policy formulation by first quarter of next year.
Okay. O kasi just so they will know na aabutan na sila because there are now bills on the establishment of sports high schools.
Yeah.
So,
Mga inspired ho dahil sa Olympics.
Yes.
We will help in any way we can, and with our secretary who has been an ally in sport. Kasi mahirap ho talaga yung, how do I say this properly? Basta I have full confidence in the secretary who is a basketball champion. Hanggang lang sasabihin ko. Kasi kung nakakaintindi ka ng sports, nandyan din yung puso mo to help our young people who choose to use their talent, dedicate their talent to improving their sport and probably even a career in sports. So I'm very confident now with the support also of the Office of the Secretary that we can get this done sooner. Na delay man, I'm sure maayos na natin to, Mr.
Pero
President.
si NSA System Board of Trustees, buo na yan. Buo na
Isa
sila.
ba kayo?
Buo na? Kasi, yeah, buo na. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
buo
you.
na.
So based on the performance indicator of the National Academy of National Academy of Sports, there should be 2 NSA campus sports facilities certified to international standards. Yun yata yung commitment ninyo way back in the 2023 budget system. But as of the moment, 0 pa rin. There are no...
Certified what?
International certification po.
Kasi mag-CCD kasi Senator Pia. Kasi naman ang sa NCC. These are the world capacity first.
Oh, yeah. So wala mong problema. Are you non-compliant?
Kasi sila pa naman yung facility natin. nasa ang work kami na. So, sino man ang sabi niya ito? Kung sino sabi niya, who's targets po nila lang. Target nyo. Target kasi hanggang nag-delay yung terms dito sa amin. Nang alin?
Kano ito? Magkano itong to?
But you already signed it.
123 million. Hindi yung... Yung...
Ay, kaso ayun pang plano.
Sila mismo, wala pa silang masal. Sila? Naman sa Clark? Hindi ba international?
So, NAS is located in BCDA, and that I'm going back, Mr. I'm adding to the background here because I'm very familiar with it because I and our former colleague were both sponsors of that bill creating the NAS, and by the time that we were passing it, we already were building or had already built the facilities in New Clark City, which was used in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. So the easy win, and also to prevent us from having a white elephant there, is for these gifted athletes to be based there and to use the facilities. So they already have access to these world-class facilities. There are no others in the country. Unless we want to budget, which I don't personally recommend, because nandiyan may access na sila. So I think what would be more accurate is i-clarify yung target na yun because they have access. They do not own it, and I don't think they need to own it because they have access to the world-class swimming pool, the world-class track oval, and we're happy to support more. Mas mabuti ho yung ganun if well, that's my opinion, because then you can have elite athletes and events also using the facilities, multi-use facilities, Mr. President, in other words.
Okay, so one thing is clear, the sports facilities being used by the NAS are world-class.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that is
That's
clear.
okay, that's
Yes.
clear. Thank God. I got worried. But if that is the case, then that's good news, Mr. President.
Yes, it's great news actually.
And then can we now go to the National Council for Children's Television?
Yes.
What has been the greatest achievement of this agency in the past 3 to 5 years, Mr. President?
Good question.
We already established
At
standards and they have research and development.
Well, their mandate is to create is it to create or to monitor? To ensure that we have child-friendly content. So in 2019, they launched the child-friendly content standard, and they've had a series of dialogue with content creators. And then they also have research and development in cooperation with FEU and roughly 2,880 children, parents, and teachers combined participated in the data gathering part of the research.
They also have yung mga documentary.
Okay, so they also have a documentary called DocuBata.
Documentary. Yes.
It's a contest. Okay, it's a contest to encourage content creation. And then they have a Global Media and Information Literacy Week to increase awareness, National Children's Broadcasting Day, and so on and so forth. We can give His Honor a copy.
So, yes, the council is not expected to
Create.
come up with content. It is expected to come up with guidelines that on what are child-friendly content. Yun po ba yun? They are,
Both, Mr. President.
pati material sila, but okay.
But really, I don't think we give them enough budget to
Yes, the
produce.
budget. Tumingin ako sa budget, 123 million.
Exactly.
So, Baka sweldo lang po ito? Tama
No,
po.
we have a budget. I don't think we give them enough budget. Yeah, there are grants given to them, but we have, alin dito?
So content. So content. They all, yeah, 120. Ano yan? Sinulat nila.
Meron nga tayong budget, okay? It is a grand amount of 3 million. So, hindi naman sila makapag-create ng ganyan, di ba? Yung budget nila for research is also 3 million. They're monitoring, I mean, really, they're monitoring child-friendly compliance, 280,000. So, we can do better than this for sure.
Sige.
Yeah.
Tulungan
But
natin
I guess,
sila.
but the
siguro.
question also is, I think the research should include, what are children watching? Are they watching TV or are they watching TikTok? What should they be monitoring?
Pero malaki-laki na rin yung 3 million. Sige, tatanungin natin sila. Ano po ang content na nagawa nila sa 3 million pesos? Mapapanood din ba natin sa YouTube to para ma-appreciate din natin?
Pasample
Sige.
niyo po sa anak
Ganun
niyo.
na lang po. I mean,
Ganun na lang.
Ganun lang po.
Sige.
Paki-inform na lang po ako. So, for the 3 million pesos, ano ang nagawa nating content at saan naman natin makikita yon para
Yes.
ma-appreciate natin?
Yes. We will send it to you
Siguro,
later.
Ang nakita kasi ng aming... yes ma'am. Baka sabihin kayo?
For Knowledge Channel?
You made it for 100 channel.
Nagbigay kayo ng grant.
Okay.
Okay. So yung 3 million, so hindi talaga kayo unit-to-trade. You give it as grants, no? Grants, okay. I thought you were saying they receive, they use it pala as grants.
Endowment fund.
Okay.
So basically, they've given grants to a couple of, what do I call these?
So they gave the 3
Creators. So like meron sila sa Knowledge Channel.
So they gave the 3 million away in... okay.
Yes.
Sige po. Pero sige, ano pa rin yung bunga nun? So yun pa rin yung
Yes.
gusto natin
So,
makita.
give us a copy. Yeah. Of the actual. Okay. I'll give us a
Sige, taga na. Tsaka sa research ng staff ko, siguro kaya i-instruct ko yung staff ko na mag-subscribe sila kasi ang YouTube subscribers daw ng council for 3 years ay 382. Okay, tulungan natin. So, instruction na ko yung staff ko na mag-subscribe po tayo sa YouTube channel ng National Council for
Ayan, ilan tayo?
Children's Television. Yan po.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. President.
Parang YouTube channel ko po ito. Padamihin natin, opo. Tulungan tayo kasi this is government.
Yes, yes.
We're funding it, tulungan natin. So,
Actually, dapat. Okay. The secretary will link it to the department's social media channels. They have millions of followers, Mr. President. And I guess no, yung isang network din which is probably not quite covered by DepEd would be nga yung mga daycares. Dapat yan talaga din. Yeah.
and last but not the least, on the National Museum, we were just there last night. So thank you to Mr. Jeremy Barnes for hosting us. Kita natin yung beauty pa rin ng ating mga works of art, and the house itself, no? The house itself, the National Museum. And siguro the good news, di ba? I think Mr. Barnes and the National Museum have been approached by the Louvre in Abu Dhabi to lend some pieces, some works of art to be displayed in the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. Did you know that, Madam Chair?
No.
Oh,
Baka it's your wife
I
who orchestrated that.
I have inside information, so I'm sorry.
Oh, kaya nga, sabi ko na eh.
So last night, when I arrived at the National Museum, I immediately asked Mr. Barnes, Jeremy, where is that piece or
Which
work of art?
pieces?
Which piece? One, I think only.
100
I think we will lend one to the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, and he led me to the La Bulakenya. Tama ba, Mr. Barnes? Is that La Bulakenya? So a painting by Juan Luna of a Bulakenya. In ano man tawag doon?
Okay.
Filipiniana attire.
Bagay kami mag-ano.
And when will that work of art be displayed in the Louvre? Just in case it pushes through.
By June next year, pag congressman na po kayo.
Ay, ganun po ba? So at any rate, So congratulations to the National Museum, for that achievement. So instead of siguro asking more questions, we end on that high note, Madam Chair. We will end on that high note.
Yes.
A Filipino work of art is desired to be displayed in the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. So
Yes. La Bulaqueña.
that's where we will end.
Ang hometown ni Senator Joel.
Yes, Senator
ng
Joel
aking
will be
gandang
proud of
mga ninuno.
So thank you very
Very
much. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you to our
questions.
secretary, and we wish him all the best. One of the most, a difficult job, but I'm sure one of the most satisfying positions in government to be the Secretary of the Department of Education. So maraming salamat to the DepEd family. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Majority Leader.
President, last to interpolate would be the chairman of the Senate Committee on Public Information. And I was told is going to focus on the National Council on Children's Television, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. May he be recognized.
Senator Robin Hood Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Una po, ako ay tagahanga po ng kalihim ng edukasyon. Ako po ay nagpapasalamat kay dating Senador Angara sapagkat napakarami pong niyang itinutulong sa BARMM, sa mga Muslim sa panahon na ito. Meron lang po akong mga gustong katanungan. Nabanggit po kasi, napakahalaga po nito, yung tungkol po sa National Council for Children's Television. Ito po ay napakalaking kapangyarihan upang mabalanse po natin ang mga matatawag po natin hindi magagandang impluensya sa mga kabataan ngayon na napapanood po at nakikita sa social media. Gusto ko lang po malaman kung ano po ang plano po nila dito. Meron po bang matibay na plano ang National Council for Children's Television para malabanan po itong mga programang nakakasira sa kabataan?
Dagdag tayo. Wait, is this dagdag?
Yes, this is the mobilization, what we added.
So, actually, Mr. President, there is an item called Advocacy and Communications Plan on TV Violence Rating Code. We added 500,000 pesos. And then there's also the launching and implementation of TV Violence Rating Code. We added 1 million pesos for this. Because their job is really to monitor and to create these guidelines. So this is the initial funding.
Description.
The description here is the TV VRC, this is the violation rating, used in conjunction with the NCCT's child-friendly content standard will play a crucial role in validating the suitability of programs aired on local television, ensuring they align with child protection norms. And then it also includes facilitating the review and harmonization of existing guidelines by the MTRCB, focusing on the development of standards or codes specifically designed to shield children from violence in television programming.
Opo, yun po. Napakaganda po at binasa po ng ating sponsor. Yun po kasi ang ating ikinakatakot po sa ngayon, hindi naman po kaila sa lahat. Nasa social media po, sobra po ang mga palabas na hindi na po talagang. Ang katunayan nga po, meron pa po tayong nakapending sa floor na patungkol po sa pagpapalakas ng MTRCB dahil nga po dito sa problemang ito. Ang gusto lang po natin malaman kung sapat po ba yung budget na ating naibigay sa kanila para po mas magkaroon po ng ipin. Kasi sa ngayon po parang hindi po natin maramdaman. Baka po sana sa susunod, sa pamamahala po ng aking kaibigan at aking pong hinahangaan, ay magkaroon po ito ng ipin para makakita po tayo na talagang may mga napaparusahan po sa usapin po ng mga programang nakasisira po at masamang impluwensya sa mga bata.
Well, definitely, Mr. President, like a lot of our agencies, pati yung mga attached agencies ng DepEd, talagang nangangailangan pa ng pondo. But in all due respect, we try to do our best. And sa 2024 GAA, 82 million yung budget. Sa GAB, 110 million yung budget. And ang committee report natin is 123 million. So lagi ho nating pinupush na itaasan at suportado naman tayo ng ating Chairman of Committee on Finance because they approved the budget we recommended. But I'd also like to add that Congressman Toff de Venecia has I guess it's a draft bill, no? To broaden the scope of the National Council for Children's Television to make it National Council for Children's Media, which is a big task. It's a Herculean task if you ask me kasi ang dami ng sanga niyan. But I personally think this is a great move in the right direction and pwede natin i-support ito, including the necessary budget to launch it properly.
Opo, napakaganda po nun. Opo. At magkaroon din po talaga uli ng mga programa talaga doon sa mga main networks ngayon natin. Meron po ba tayong karapatan o masasabing tayo po ay malaya na makapagpapalabas ng mga programa ng gobyerno na para sa mga bata dito po sa mga main networks, sa mga malalaking networks? Meron po, pwede po ba yun?
Can you? You are they are required
to show 15% of child friendly, whether it's produced by you or not, di ba? Yeah.
So, kasi yung batas po natin, it requires that all the networks show at least 15% of their daily airtime. The requirement is 15% at least of their daily airtime is dedicated to child-friendly shows. So whether it is these are products of grants of the council or it's the own shows of the networks, it doesn't matter as long as it is considered child-friendly.
Opo. May nakamonitor po dito? May nagmo-monitor po kung sumusunod po ang mga main networks po?
Meron. They have a media monitoring section that does that. And as I mentioned, we increased their budget to help them do their job better.
Opo. Pwede pong makahingi po sa aming komite ng mga palabas na ito? Pwede po namin pong makita, masilip po? Kahit
Yes,
hindi po
pwede
ngayon,
po.
sa ibang panahon po.
Pwede po.
Opo. Ang pangalawa na lang pong tanong, hintayin na lang po namin yung ipapadala po ninyo. Pangalawa na lang pong tanong, meron po ba tayo sa ating patungkol sa mental health po ng mga teacher? Meron po bang nakabantay dito sa DepEd, sa mental health po ng mga teacher?
Yeah, of course. Batas na yan eh. Oo.
Na-implement na yung bago. Hindi na to sa NCCT. Sorry, hindi na NCCT. DepEd na. DepEd na. Yeah.
Opo niyo natin yung second. Ano yung mga programs natin?
So one is yung di ba we passed the law that changes so we can hire more the guidance counselors. We changed the requirement, di ba? We changed the because
So one thing we've done, Mr. President, and this is by virtue of the law na siya, right? Pumasalan.
sorry, the law, right?
Mental health. Yeah. One of the things we've done by way of law is we created new positions, which is already being implemented by DepEd for mental health what do you call them, mental health experts. So specialists, no longer just guidance counselors, because historically, medyo naging, put it bluntly, parang medyo naging dead-end career path yung guidance counselor, because ang taas ng requirement to get hired, you need a master's degree, and then ang baba ng sweldo. So we now have new positions to make it more exciting, and there's a career progression, and the secretary was involved in making that law. So it's also a priority of theirs. Sorry, specifically, are you asking about the wellness of the teachers?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Then, di ba? Yeah. So they have online sessions to be able to reach more teachers, no? Kasi kesa magpapunta ng paisa-isang expert, and they cover a variety of mental health topics, and they also have a hotline available to the teachers.
Opo, siguro po gusto ko na lamang pong ibahagi sa ating mahal na kalihim at sa edukasyon. Doon po sa naganap kasing aming exposure nitong huli, kasi kami po'y umikot, magmula po sa Luzon, napunta ng Visayas, napunta ng Mindanao. Marami po kami nakausap na mga teacher dahil sila po yung nakikipag-coordinate sa amin para mapuntahan po namin yung malalayong lugar. Ang lagi po nilang sinasabi ngayon, sa public school po, nagkaroon po ng parang takot ang mga teacher na disiplinahin ang mga bata na makukulit na katulad ko nung araw. Sapagkat nagkakaroon po ng parang kampanya sa social media na laging ang napapalabas ay nagiging masyado ng ang ating mga teacher ay mahigpit, nagiging sila ay may karahasan na. Sa nangyayari po ngayon sa mga classroom na dyan na yung mga makukulit na mga bata, hindi na lang po pinapansin ng mga teacher, tinitiis na lang niya dahil natatakot po siya na baka po siya ay makasuhan o magkaroon pa ng problema. Yun lang po, gusto ko lamang pong i-share yun, mahal na Pangulo, na meron na pong ganyang klaseng hinaing ang ating mga teacher na sana po ay maging bigyan po ito ng pansin sapagkat talaga pong takot na po sila na magbigay ng disiplina sapagkat sa mga nangyari po na hindi po talaga nabigyan sila ng tamang pansin kung ano po talaga din, kung ano ang dapat nilang gawin sa mga classroom. Siguro po magkaroon po ng alituntunin o mga dapat gawin para po yung ating pong mga teacher ay hindi po magkaroon ng ganitong pagkatakot. Yun lamang po, mahal na tagapangulo, marami pong salamat.
Maraming salamat, Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
Noted po yun, but just a quick response, aware po sila, meron silang positive discipline and socio-emotional learning, and meron din teaching manual on children's rights. So they're on it. Alam niyo naman sa lumang panahon, medyo yung iba dyan, di talaga sila aware. So siguro kailangan talaga pang dagdagan ang kaalaman din ng mga teachers. And of course, mahirap ang trabaho nila kasi sobrang dami ng estudyante minsan, that the challenges are really there for them.
Opo, yun lang po yung concern natin. Talaga pong yun po yung sinabi sa akin. Hindi lang po isa, dalawa, tatlo. Ang dami po talaga. Ang sinabi sa akin, hindi na namin alam kung paano namin didisiplinahin ang estudyante namin dahil laging kami ang nababalikan. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
President, there being no other reservation for interpretation.
Mr. President, I still have a manifestation from my brother.
Yes,
Pwede ko naman ibigay na lang kay Secretary, pero baka ma-text ako ng di oras. Kaya I will read the manifestation of Senator Alan Cayetano. I would like to raise a critical matter concerning the budget allocation of DepEd for the Basic Education Facility Program, which plays an important role in the construction, rehabilitation, and improvement of school buildings and facilities in the country. According to UNESCO, physical infrastructure is important because it has a significant impact on children's enrollment, attendance, completion rates, and even learning achievements. While adaptation strategies such as implementing double, triple, or combination shifting allow more children access to school, there are studies which find that said strategies negatively affect educational achievement and learning efficiency of the learners due to shortened instruction time. Research shows that this is merely a patch-up or temporary solution that will not really address the problem of classroom congestion. The country's existing inequalities in education access and learning outcomes are further exacerbated by the effects of climate change. It is noteworthy that the National Expenditure Program was prepared and submitted to Congress during the first half of 2024 before the country faced several disasters, including severe tropical storm Christine and super typhoon Karina, which caused devastating floods and landslides. These hazards leading to disasters have left widespread damage to life and property and have further strained our already vulnerable and limited educational facilities. Despite the urgent need for repair and rehabilitation, the proposed budget of 6,132,800,000 for DepEd's Basic Education Facility Program, specifically for the rehabilitation, renovation, repair, and improvement of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings under the NEP 2025 was slashed by 2 billion to 4,132,800,000 under the General Appropriations Bill. Curiously, however, the budget for DepEd's Basic Education Facility for the construction, replacement, and completion of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings and technical vocational laboratories and others jumped from 15 billion under the NEP to 24 billion in the GAB. Curiously, as annex titled Department of Education School Building Program was attached to the GAB, where beneficiary schools were already identified. Given the urgency of rebuilding efforts, maximum utilization and efficiency are needed to expedite the restoration and improvement of our educational facilities. These challenges, compounded by the damage caused by extreme weather events and climate change, call for a firm commitment to rehabilitate and improve our education facilities by restoring the amount slashed from DepEd's budget for the rehabilitation, renovation, repair, improvement of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings. So this is the manifestation of Senator Alan Cayetano. As I told the Secretary, actually, without having even read his manifestation, that this representation
Development Authority and its attached agencies, budgetary support to government corporations, including that of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies and the Development Academy of the Philippines, and to recognize the sponsor, Senator Grace Poe, and to interpellate Senator Coco Pimentel.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, the consideration of the aforementioned budget is now in order for interpellation. Senator Grace Poe and our minority leader, Senator Coco
Correct.
Pimentel, are recognized.
The correction, Mr. President, can we recognize first the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator? This is NEDA.
NEDA.
Kasama na si PSA dyan. Right.
Correct,
Yes, yes,
correct,
yes.
correct.
Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Our Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros, is recognized for her interpellation.
Thank you. Mr. President, before we begin, I would like to warmly welcome our NEDA family, headed by Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, who was here since earlier this afternoon. Mr. President, it is also my duty to present to the body the budget of the NEDA and its attached agencies and corporations. Based on the Senate Committee report, NEDA's total agency budget for fiscal year 2025 amounts to 13,307,298,000, composed of 13,024,559 as new appropriations and 282,739 as automatic appropriations. So with this, this representation is now ready to receive your questions. May we ask the ones?
Yes, the OSA is
OSA, please.
directed to restore order in this plenary. Likewise, before we proceed, just like to greet Secretary Balisacan, advance happy birthday tomorrow. So I hope that interpellations will be short so that he can celebrate his birthday with his family tonight.
O, paabutin natin hanggang 12 para sa lubong.
Pwede rin.
Diba? That's the
Senator
best.
Tiberos may now continue with the interpellation.
Salamat, Mr. President. Magandang gabi po, Madam Chair, at sa NEDA family, at advanced happy birthday po kay Sec RC. And in fact, my questions are not for NEDA per se, but for the Philippine Statistics Authority, Madam Chair.
Mr. Mapa. Ulit na.
So, Madam Chair, sa hearings po natin kay Guo Huaping, lumabas ang abusong ginagawa sa late registration para makakuha ng pekeng Filipino citizenship ang mga dayuhang may masamang balak dito. Nag-conduct po ba ng internal audit o investigation ng PSA sa mga pekeng birth certificate na ito, Mr. President?
Update on the birth certificates, Mr. President. 1,627 birth certificates of foreign nationals were blocked by the PSA after its investigation, finding the documents to be spurious. The names of foreign nationals were shared to the BI, DFA, and NBI. But from what I know, out of those numbers, let's see, 18 were endorsed to the OSG for cancellation. And then, so 18 pa lang yun na-endorse for cancellation. Kasama na dito yung kay Goa Ping.
Salamat, Madam Chair. That's a start. Sa isa sa mga naunang hearings natin, sinabi na po ng PSA that they determined na ang birth certificate nakuha through late registration ni Guo Huaping ay irregular. So I suppose now the updated or the official term is spurious. So it's a start. 1,627 birth certificates blocked because deemed spurious, at 18 pati na yung kay Guo Huaping endorsed sa OSG para sa cancellation, para kanila na rin para ma-actionan na rin po ng constitutional body na iyon. At maigi din po na sinishare po itong mga ganitong determination, findings at determination ng PSA sa ibang mga ahensya para ma-facilitate hindi na yung ang tawag nito yung compartmentalization ng intelligence, which reached absurd ends dun sa kaso ni Guo Huaping, pero mas ma-facilitate yung pagtutulungan ng iba't iba nating mga law enforcement and intelligence agencies.
Actually, I'd also like to commend our colleague here, the good Senator Risa Hontiveros, for focusing on this problem that if we didn't really investigate the issue on the POGO, these other problems wouldn't have come to light. Imagine 1,600 na yung nakapag-rehistro na over 18 years old. Wala man lang kaduda-duda. Siguro, dapat din natin ma-follow up anong nangyari dun sa mga civil servants na yun na pumayag na sila ay marehistro.
Actually, Madam Chair, na-anticipate nyo yung susunod kong tanong, follow-up question. Pero bago yung follow-up question na yun, gusto ko ring pasalamatan lahat ng mga colleagues natin na nagtutulong-tulungan para mas gawing tapat sa tamang proseso, requirements at iba pa, yung ating late registration of live birth. Dahil, at ito yung isa pang pahuling tanong ko mamaya-maya, dahil ito ay proseso na kinakailangan din naman nung iba nating mga kababayan na acting in good faith at wala pong masamang balak, mga totoong Pilipino. Kaya lang, kinakasangkapan yung prosesong iyon ng mga di naman totoong Pilipino at may masamang balak nga. So, muli maraming salamat sa marami nating mga kasama dito na nagtulong-tulungan sa prosesong ito ng pag-iimbestiga ng POGO at pati itong usapin ng pagkasangkapan sa late registration of live birth. Marami po sa ating mga kasamahan, and syempre special mention sa kay Senator Sherwin, no, Gatchalian. So dun sa na-anticipate nyo ang tanong ko, Madam Chair, paano naman po pananagutin yung mga opisyal na kasabwat sa pamemeke ng birth certificate, Mr. President?
The names have already been forwarded to the mayor of Santa Cruz. But then, okay, so the names were of those government workers were submitted to the mayor of that town, but alongside with it, simultaneously, there's also an investigation by the NBI.
Salamat, Madam Chair. And actually, naalala ko po, bukod sa NBI, may iba pang mga importanteng department at ahensya ng ating gobyerno. And if I remember correctly, sa isang kaugnay na hearing, nasabi din po yata ng resource person mula sa DILG na naghihintay sila at naghihingi ng posible mga pag-amyenda din sa local government code para mas magkaroon sila ng mandato, imbestigahan at kung kakailanganin, disiplinahin ang sino mang tiwaling local government officials na sa halip na bantayan ang integridad ng ganitong mga proseso tulad ng late registration of live birth ay nagiging kasabwat pa nga. Dahil kumbaga pinoproteksyonan nila yung mga criminal activities na nabibigyang daan sa ganitong pagkasangkapan ng dapat sagradong birth certificate bilang Pilipino.
Tama. I mean, paano naman tayo? I mean, napakahirap kumuha ng birth certificate, ha? Tapos itong mga ito parang sa isang iglap.
Ganun lang.
Di ba? Ewan ko ba, may mga litrato ba tayo nitong mga nakakuha na to?
Ng mga nakakuha nitong mga peking birth
Oo,
certificate?
Mr. President, meron ba?
Well, I hadn't prepared any for this interpellation, Madam Chair, pero
But
yung
did you
mukha-
have it? Do you have it, Mr.
Hindi
President?
pa nga eh. May make available po ba ng PSA sa atin sa pamamagitan ng chair, yung 1,627 na iyon?
Okay, so we will ask the Bureau of Immigration. Actually, we're going to have a hearing with the DOJ. We'll ask them to submit to the committee, not naman for presentation, but for FYI, yung mga litrato ng mga, kasi gusto ko malaman kung, di ba, kung talagang gumamit sila ng sound judgment, di ba, sa pagdetermina. Kasi iba-iba naman yung mga itsura din ng Pilipino, di ba? Hindi naman natin
Totoo
masasabi, but together with the physical appearance is also their knowledge of the culture or also how they speak. I mean, it's not just one category. Lahat yan may mga titignan. Yeah, thank you.
Salamat, Madam Chair, Mr. President. And ito, yung sunod kong tanong, kaugnay nga nung isang pinag-usapan namin, ngayon lang ni Madam Chair, alam po nating mahalaga ang late registration at kailangan ito na mga kababayan nating nakatira sa malayong lugar o hirap ang access sa mga opisina ng PSA. Pero ayaw rin naman nating ganun lang kadaling gamitin ito para manloko. So may balak po bang reforma ang PSA para balansehin ang mga interes na ito, Mr. President?
So they issued now a memo circular requiring them to submit an ID picture already together with their biometrics for the national ID.
Salamat, Madam Chair. At sana po sa pag-require ng ganitong mga dagdag na submissions o requirements, pantay pa rin at patuloy isaalang-alang yung minsan hindi ganun kadali tulad ng para sa atin, halimbawa na nakatira dito sa mga syudad, para naman sa mga kababayan natin na totoong Pilipino, tapos dahil sila nga ay nasa mga sa DOHG, the areas geographically isolated and disadvantaged, o kaya mga victim survivors ng sakuna, nawala lahat ng mga ID nila, o di kaya mga katutubong Filipino, yun, sana patuloy pa rin isaalang-alang, i-facilitate po ng PSA na itong mga kababayan nating mas hirap mag-fulfill ng requirements ay makakuha pa rin ng birth certificate na kanilang kailangan.
Actually, Mr. President, I understand also na talaga may mga nangangailangan yan. But to be fair to the PSA, they reviewed using data analytics 14.89 million late registrations submitted from 2010 to 2024. So 14 years. Pero ganun karami yung nag-submit. So tignan na lang natin kung sino talaga dun yung makatotohanan yung impormasyon. 50,532 birth certificates or 0.34% are being audited by PSA personnel. So yun yung medyo siguro kailangan bigyan ng mas masusing atensyon.
It's mathematically parang maliit na porsyento, pero na-appreciate ko po, Madam Chair, yung pagkamasinop ng PSA sa review na ito. Kaya rin siguro sila nakapag-produce sa unang batch ng 1,627 spurious birth certificates na kanilang binlock. Hindi po madali, pambihirang makapag-review ng higit 14 million na mga birth certificates at pagtukoy ng 50,000 sa mga ito. I hope na itong ginagawang sa pamamagitan ng kanilang audit, itong ginagawang audit ng PSA ay magsilbing isang best practice, magandang huwaran din sa iba nating mga ahensya na higpitan talaga yung pagprotekta sa integridad ng mga procedures natin at yung mga naibubungan nitong mga dapat na official at makatotohanang mga dokumento. And I think also, Madam Chair, this voluminous hard work bodes well also dun sa pinapangarap natin across agencies na digitization ng mga government documents at paggawang electronic ng mas maraming mga proseso natin. At yung pangarap din natin na magkaroon ng consolidated database, yung mga magkakatulad na ahensya para mas madaling mag-cross-check, mag-cross-reference. Tulad nung itinatanong din natin, Madam Chair, nung mga nauunang pagdinig tungkol sa POGO, na bakit may iba't ibang nag-i-issue ng ganito't ganyang dokumento, pero hindi nila ma-cross-check sa isa't isa kung totoo ba itong taong ito na may hawak ng isa o ilang mga ID natin. So pagpupugay po sa PSA, Madam Chair, sa pamamagitan ninyo para sa ganitong napakalaking at maramihang trabahong ito. At may efforts din po ba, Madam Chair, ang PSA para padaliin din yung access sa lahat ng Pilipino, mga totoong Pilipino, para di na ganon kahirap at least ang original registration ng birth certificate, Mr. President.
We find that. Is actually very proactive. There are about 1,214,531 individuals verified or having no official birth records in the PSA database as of which 426,035 individuals were registered under BRAP or 35.1% of the verified no birth record individuals. This accounts for 21.3% of the 2 million target registrants. With this number, the PSA has issued 197,012 certificates of live birth in security paper, or 46.2% of the registered records. So, hinanap sila talaga physically, pinuntahan sila dun sa mga probinsya, dun sa mga barangay nila para madala sila sa civil registrar at matulungan silang mag-register. So this is as of
We recognize Senator
Mr. President,
Francis.
just to interject,
Yes, Mr.
with the
President.
permission of the two ladies. Ilan po kaya dito ang mga kapatid nating Muslim doon sa tinatrack nila? Because I understand, Mr. President, iba po yung registration process ng ating mga kapatid na Muslim.
But the targets to BARMM area out of the 3.7. So we are working with the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the visa process para ito sa Sulu and Mindanao. So pasok.
So, BARMM alone,
Silang pinakamalaki.
sila yung pinakamalaki na walang registration. So there are about 400,000 of them. So they're working with the local Office of the Peace Process para ma-register sila. Kasi syempre, this is also very sensitive, no, that area.
And I understand, Mr. President,
A lot of them are returnees and their families.
Mr. President, the newly created Sharia courts would be able to address this backlog, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we are working.
They're also working with the Sharia courts to help out with the process.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Salamat, Mr. President, at salamat sa Majority Leader. And muli, Madam Chair, gusto ko ring magpasalamat sa PSA na gaya ng sinabi nyo, hinanap nila yung mga kababayan natin na posibleng at na-verify nilang wala pa ring original registration ng birth certificate hanggang sa ngayon. Baka sa atin, tinitake for granted natin na lalo na kung naipapanganak tayo sa ospital or kahit home-based birth pero nirerehistro tayo ng kumadrona na nakakakuha ka agad automatically ng birth certificate. Pero para sa maraming kababayan pala natin, yung 1 milyong nahanap na ng PSA, yung 400,000 dun sa BARMM, napakahalagang dokumento talaga at pala ito. Nakikipagtrabaho, halimbawa yung opisina ko ngayon, Madam Chair, sa isang NGO na ang pangalan na Ideals, at talagang, ayan, katrabaho po nila ang PSA, at talagang may pamagat sila sa birth certificate na parang passport sa buhay. Kasi ito po'y dokumento na patunay ng pagkakilanlan sa isang tao bilang mamamayang Pilipino, kaya't may entitlements sa karapatan, sa benepisyo, sa social protections, at pagkakataon sa pag-unlad sa buhay sa bawat mamamayan. So, huli na siguro, Madam Chair, at ito tinatanong ko dahil may natanggap po kasing request for assistance ang opisina ko na isang letra lang ng middle name ang mali ang spelling. Pero hirap na hirap siyang ipakorek ito at talagang apektado ang buhay niya. So, pwede niyo po bang linawin, Madam Chair, ang proseso at requirements sa administrative correction ng birth certificate?
Yung process, it emanates doon sa local civil registrar, doon sa kung saan pinanganak. Ang problema usually, Madam Chair, yung malayo. So ngayon, ang ginagawa nila, pag malayo sa Mindanao, but already nila, the PSA can help you because we will contact our provincial office to facilitate.
So, saan sila pupuntang office?
Sa amin.
Sa PSA. So, ganito po yun. Kung kunwari merong problema, it's an administrative matter, obviously. But if they are far from their province, let's say, kasi they have to go to their local civil registrar, they can avail of going to the PSA office in Quezon City, at tapos sila na makikipag-coordinate doon sa probinsya nila. Sa ibang place sa Luzon. Pero nandun sila sa... Okay, so they can go to any PSA provincial office. So if they're in another town or province or region, they can go to the local PSA to make that correction. Pero ano nga ang tawag doon? Basta lalapit lang sila?
Administrative correction process.
Administrative correction process. Anong kailangan nilang gawin?
Yung
Proof.
ilang document ngayon. Tuning,
and...
spelling, let's say school record, baptismal.
Okay.
And then yun ay process na lang.
Okay. So, additional proof of the correct name, baptismal records, maybe school records, employment ID. Kasi kung pareho lang naman ang muka, di ba? Ang medyo weird lang kung lalaki tapos babae yung nagpapalit ng
Parang kung cases yung Madam Chair, spelling,
Oo.
E-I-O-U.
Oo.
So we have already a process.
Okay, normally it's expected, like there are certain letters that are easily misread, and so it's or even cut. And I have a side story about that, my friend. Anyway, wag na dito. Okay.
Hintayin ko yung side story, Madam Chair, kahit mamaya or sa susunod na araw. Salamat po. And I suppose whatever the circumstances of our citizens, no matter how unfamiliar they may be to us now, inaasahan po natin na yung mga attached agencies ng ating gobyerno ay nag-evolve over time at magiging mas inclusive para kung ano yung entitlements ng mamamayan, halimbawa birth certificate, ay yun na nga po, nag-evolve para maipaabot yung serbisyong iyon dun sa nararapat at may karapatan po doon. So, yun lamang po, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat. Salamat din po sa PSA. At maligayang bati muli kay Sec RC. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Actually, nagsama yung dalawa si Senator Risa at si Senator Sherwin, na talagang yung pagsisikap ninyo at sa pagtutok ninyo dun sa mga nakaraang investigasyon ay marami talagang pagbabagong naidulot na isang buong industriya na hindi naman nakakabuti sa atin ang nawala na, at pangalawa na nabuhay ang issue or napansin natin itong issue na ginagamit pa lang ating sistema na nagpaparehistro, hindi naman. So maraming salamat, Mr. President, sa inyong dalawa.
Thank you for the compliments. Majority Leader?
President, next to interpolate would be Senator Robin Hood Padilla. I move that he be recognized.
Maraming salamat po sa ating pinunong mayorya. Ginoong Pangulo, nais ko lamang pong malaman sa kalihim po ng NEDA kung pareho pa din po ba ang posisyon po ninyo tungkol po sa binitawan po ninyong salita doon po sa pagdinig sa Kongreso tungkol po sa iba't ibang RBH na nagpapanukalang amendahan ang ating konstitusyon. Particular na po ang economic provision nito. Dito po noong February 26, 2024, ang sabi niyo po doon, we must lift restrictions on critical sectors such as public utilities, education, mass media, and advertising so that we can realize their untapped potential and enable them to contribute to the country's economic progress. Yun po ang sinabi ng ating mahal na kalihim. Gusto ko lamang pong madinig, Ginoong Pangulo, kung hanggang ngayon po ba, ito pa rin po ang posisyon ng NEDA?
Anong posisyon? Mr. President, pareho pa rin ang posisyon niya, pero ang nagbago yung sitwasyon natin sapagkat sa kaalaman din ng ating kasama dito, ako po ang unang naglagda at dumepensa kasama ni Senator Drilon dito sa Public Service Act kung saan ay nabuksan ang sektor na dati ay sarado para pwedeng mamuhunan kahit na sino dito, katulad ng sektor ng telecommunications, sektor ng transportasyon, sektor ng power generation, tapos at kung ano-ano pa, nabuksan yan, pati advertisement. Ngayon, Mr. President, pagdating dito sa Public Service Act, ang unang-unang nag-apply dito para makapag-operate, I believe sa National Telecommunications NTC, Communication, Application 001 ay ang, ano nga to? Yung kay SpaceX. Okay? Yung SpaceX na yon ni Elon Musk, kaya sila nag-apply, nalaman nga nila na binuksan na natin, ano? So namuhunan na sila dito at narinig natin na sila ang nagko-connect sa mga malalayong mga lugar sa ating bansa na walang internet service. At ang unang matutuwa kayo, Mr. President, si Senator Robin, sapagkat ang naging benepisyaryo dito ay ang Tawi-Tawi at mga ilang lugar sa Mindanao na hindi makapunta sa korte para mag-attend ng hearing. Ang mismong Korte Suprema ay gumawa ng teleconference para maabot ang mga may reklamo doon sa mga iba't ibang lugar sa Mindanao na walang signal dahil meron ng SpaceX, nagkaroon ng signal. So, maraming salamat sa patuloy ninyong pagtutulak dito na mabuksan ang ating ekonomiya at hindi naman kinailangan pang palitan ang konstitusyon para ito ay ating nakamit.
Okay po. Kasi po, mahal na Pangulo, na-aproban po ang batas na napakaganda po ng ating mahal na Senadora Grace po noong 18th Congress. Ito pong binasa ko po ay noong 2024. So ibig sabihin po ba, hindi na po yan ngayon ang posisyon ng NEDA? Hindi na po ba nila ikakapit pa ang direktiba ng mahal na Pangulo na ang sabi po niya ay meet the daunting challenges of the present and prepare us for the uncertainties and complexities of the future. So wala na po ito. Yun po ba?
So ang sinasabi ninyo, Mr. President, ito pala ay nabanggit lang ni Secretary Balisacan itong taon na ito. Kung saan napasa na yung batas na yon. Pero yun pa rin ang sinabi niya.
Opo.
So,
ito
natin
po
siya.
ay hearing po ito noong pinag-uusapan po nila sa malaking kapulungan. Yung patungkol po sa ating mga resolution of both houses po. Apo. Ano lang po, mahal na Pangulo, gusto lang po natin matinig kung ito pa din po ba ang posisyon ng NEDA o hindi na po. Yun lamang po. Kung hindi na po, ay okay po. Maraming salamat. Kung yun pa rin po, maraming salamat pa din po.
Okay, I stand corrected. Oo nga pala, yung education and advertising hindi pa kasi kasama pala dun sa Public Service Act. So, yun ang nire-reiterate niya. Pero, magpakatotoo na lang tayo dito, Sen. Robin. Alam naman natin yung mga galaw noon. Siguro si Secretary Balisacan, ayaw na lang kumontra dun sa mga gustong ipagpatuloy yung ano nga tawag doon, yung People's Initiative at na kailangan palitan yung so hindi na lang kinontra siguro. Pero dapat napaalala rin na napasa na yung PSA, kaya nga ito ay ating napapakinabangan na ngayon.
Opo. So, ano po ang pwede ko pong iwan, mahal na? Hindi po ba?
Anong official answer ninyo,
Opo.
Secretary Balisacan?
Opo, yun lamang po. Susundin po ba yung direktiba ni Pangulo o hindi na po?
Okay. So his position remains the same, Mr. President. Buksan ang ekonomiya at kung hindi naman kinakailangan na magkaroon ng, kung yung simpleng batas, di ba, na hindi na kailangan halughugin pa lahat ng buong konstitusyon, doon daw siya. Yun na yun, for the record. As of, ano ba ngayon? November 7, 2024. Balikan ninyo to next year.
Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Thank you, Mr. President, kay Senator Robin Padilla. There are no other questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Next to interpolate, Mr. President, is the Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, the chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, is recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor, Mr. President. I'll just continue where Senator Risa left off. And this is on the topic of birth certificates. I think we all agree that we were surprised with the revelation that there are thousands of fake birth certificates scattered all over the country. It was so glaring and surprising that even one person who was holding a fake birth certificate managed to run for public office and won as mayor. And the sky is the limit for her because with that victory, she can go on to become congressman, governor, and so on. So it is very crucial that we plug all the loopholes as well as all the gaps in attaining birth certificates. And I heard earlier with the answer of the good sponsor that memos and directives were issued in order to plug those loopholes. But aside from that, I truly believe that with the use of technology, we can weed out all of these fake birth certificates and improve the process of application. And that's what I want to focus. Are there any moves from the PSA to use technology to prevent fake birth certificates from happening, to scan and use technology to ascertain that the existing birth certificates are indeed authentic and indeed are only given to people who are qualified to get birth certificates? Meron ba tayong ganun na technology, or are we do we have any plans of using those technologies?
Okay. Mr. President, there's a 4-year digitization program with the PSA wherein they're going to link hospitals, barangays, and local civil registrars with the PSA. Ngayon, for the first year, this is 2024, they were given 136 million in the GAA. The second year, 2025, they're asking for 306 million for the additional, kasi ito na, 87 local civil registrar's office, 174 hospitals, and 87 barangays for the first year. Nasa pilot program na raw. And then the second year, an additional 387 local civil registrars and 477 hospitals and 411 barangays will be included.
For this digitalization.
Wala po yung 2024.
So it's a 4-year digitization program. So ang last is 2027. So every year, continuing appropriation ito.
I understand, good sponsor, that DBM did not allocate the required 306 million.
Correct,
pesos.
this year.
So what will be the adverse impact of not receiving that amount? Because we're now in the middle of not only issuing directives to fix the gaps, but now embarking on a digitalization process to completely plug all the loopholes. So with that amount not being allocated, will it again derail the efforts to stop this stop the proliferation of fake birth certificates?
It will, Mr. President.
All right, so it's important.
It's important. I mean, it's certainly something that can be introduced for an amendment.
Okay. At the proper time, good
Yes.
sponsor will also introduce an amendment because, like what Senator Risa mentioned earlier, it was really we were shocked, no, to see the thousands and thousands of fake birth certificates can easily be issued to people who are not qualified. And with technology, I truly believe that this can be prevented by integrating the different offices that are connected to issuing birth certificates. In terms of, I have another question that came out during the interpellation of Senator Risa. I understand that national ID, correct me if I'm wrong with this process, that at birth, a baby can already get a national ID number. Is that correct, Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. President.
Can national ID be given to fraudulent or to people who are not qualified? The same as what happened with our birth certificates?
Well, obviously, we've learned our lesson, Mr. President. So now, there's actually a biometric process involved.
Biometric authentication.
And a biometric authentication process involved. So, kung sino man talaga yung tao na yun na gumagamit ng pangalan na yun, dapat nakamatch dun sa kanyang biometrics.
And diba pwedeng magbigay ng national ID number at birth. But if that baby does not have any proof of his nationality or citizenship, can that baby get a national ID number?
Kailangan may birth registration siya.
Kailangan may birth rate. Kasi, syempre, pag nagpa-register ka, kailangan muna meron kang birth certificate. Doon talaga ililink yung national ID mo.
So it's really important that newborn will have an authentic birth certificate. That's the most basic document.
Yes, and then, di ba ganito naman yan katulad yan, sa birth certificate mo, nakalagay yung pangalan ng nanay at tatay mo. If there's a question on the status of the child, if the child is natural born, obviously they'll have to defer to the name. They'll have to go and check the names of those parents and ask also for the birth certificates of those parents and trace the authenticity of that. So at least meron namang trail, may paper trail.
There's another, thank you for the answer, a good sponsor. There's another account that we actually suggested this to the committee, and this is to increase the budget of the Legal Service and Fraud Management Division by 27 million pesos. And this is to address the proliferation of illicit activities related to falsification of national IDs, birth certificate, and fixing activities. And this is where I'm coming from. Well, do we have any cases right now of fake birth certificates? Fake national IDs.
We do have cases of fake national IDs.
Is it fake national ID or the person who is holding the
Gave,
national ID?
fraudulent.
Fraudulent or spurious national ID?
So hindi fake ID.
Hindi. Pwede kumuha siya ng ID na siya talaga. And then nag-represent.
The person is not qualified. Yeah, ineligible.
Okay, so the documents presented were fraudulent, but it's still the national ID. It's the correct ID, but the information that was used to supply that was supplied for that ID is what's fraudulent.
And how many cases of those type of spurious national IDs do we have? Because we have that in our birth certificate. Now it's spreading into the national ID. And the national ID now is an important document to open a bank account, to apply for, let's say, your TIN number. So how many national IDs? How many have we detected? Have we detected national IDs that are not that are spurious? How many of those?
11 pa lang.
11
pa lang, Mr. President. But they are but they are also checking certain cases, instances with the DSWD. For four-piece beneficiaries. Actually, Mr. President, it's true that, there'll always be ways pag may gusto may paraan, di ba? Kung ayaw may dahilan. So, maghahanap ng paraan talagang mga yan. Pero at least ito, we're one step forward by having these biometrics. So, checking the identity, biometrics. Then later on, checking the family tree, di ba? Birth certificate, and then kung yung mga pangalan ng parents doon, may biometrics, ID rin, check din kung yon. I mean, di ba, it's easier na. Every decade naman, hopefully, meron pagbabago.
And what are we doing to address the spurious national ID or irregular, I don't know what term should I use, but irregular national IDs? What reforms are we doing? Because later on, we might be encountering people who are not qualified with national IDs, opening fake bank accounts, using it for money laundering, using it for illegal activities. So what reforms have we undertaken in order to stop those type of activities?
Well, Mr. President, what's being done now is if they find that, for example, for the beneficiaries of 4Ps, they send the questionable identification so that it can be blocked by the DSWD, and then after which it's also sent to the NBI so that a follow-up investigation can ensue.
Okay. And this amount, the 27 million for legal service and fraud management, what will this be used? Is this for case build-up or the actual case filing?
I guess all, Mr. President, to build up the case and also all of the following proceedings to be able to make sure that they're properly represented in court and then they can send the representation kasi kahit naman yun, dahil sila talaga yung magfa-file yan, di ba?
At the proper time, Mr. President, Your Honor, we will submit some proposals in order to help PSA to completely achieve their digitalization, as well as amounts for PSA to pursue fraudulent birth certificates, fraudulent national IDs. I think we already exposed this illegal activity, and it's really imperative that we equip PSA to stop those illegal activities and hold people to account, especially government personnel who are part of the syndicates or part of those who issues fake documents. So with that, good sponsor, thank you very much for your time. Maraming salamat po. And happy birthday to Secretary.
Napansin nyo, napaka-ikli ng mga tanong kasi magbo-birthday kayo. So, medyo naawa. No, but I want again to say, Senator Sherwin really has, aside from his dedication to his work, I feel as integrity, there are just a few things that he may not say no to. But then I know, like with his work, he really follows his conscience. So. Thank you.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
President, next to interpolate is our good minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel.
Thank you, Mr. President, with the permission of our sponsor. Sige.
Birthday ni, just a reminder, birthday of...
Advance happy birthday to our NEDA Secretary, Secretary Balisacan. Yung iba siguro, if they could be, I would just request siguro submission of some documents and lists siguro, ganun lang, just to save time.
Yes, thank
Pero
you.
ito muna, my first question kasi, prepared by my staff secretary, is about a quotation of you, yung about on the monthly food threshold, etc. It's a very controversial one, di ba? Pero I will no longer mention the quote, pero do we have now an updated
it used to be
definition of poverty threshold or the amount needed to meet the basic food and non-food needs of a family of 5, or the so-called poverty threshold. Ano na?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
right now. Oh, no.
Yeah, it used to be, they already adjusted it. It used
Yeah.
to be 60 pesos per day per person. Now they made it 90. Di ba?
The 90, yung 60 kasi was on the food poor. The 90 was on the poor, on the overall poor.
Okay.
So that was the controversial one. Ang tanong ko lang, did we review our formula and our data so that now do we have a new definition? Kung wala, we will stick to the old one. But nabira po kayo ron eh.
So May 2023, there was a new, they gathered new data. This is okay. In May 2025, a new data will come out. But for now, we are still using those metrics that we read earlier.
Sige, can you describe briefly how are we, what's the formula? What are you doing to come up with a new definition? So, what, survey? Ano po yan? Just very briefly lang po para maintindihan namin. So, May 2025 pa.
Okay, thank you. This is what they should have done from the beginning. So a food nutritionist will come up with a nutritious meal plan based on what's available. And then that meal plan will be submitted to the PSA. And then the PSA will get a price collection for the ingredients that are being used. Of course, also taking into consideration at that time electricity costs and all other charges for them to be able to determine a poverty threshold. But it will be an interagency group that will come up with a recommendation.
See. So the amount that we are using now, which we will continue to use until May 2025, was determined when?
See, prices of all these on the
Okay, so it's a yearly evaluation, Mr. President. So yung para sa ngayon, nung 2023 ginawa yon. We can ask a copy of the menu that was given to them.
Sige, ganun na
So
lang.
we know.
So we'll understand kasi pero naging admittedly naging controversial, no, Secretary? Naging controversial. Marami nag-react no rin na try living with 60 pesos a day.
A day.
May nagsabi po ng ganun. So.
Yeah, they will send a copy of the menu.
And then just submission na lang po, can we get a copy of this administration's flagship projects, including infrastructure, plus the status nila as of the making of the list of the report? Pwede po. Submission na lang po.
Mr. President, there are about 186 of them.
Yes.
They're available in the website, but a copy will be submitted to your office, Mr. President.
With the status?
And the status. Four are completed.
How many?
4.
4 have been completed. 4 have been completed.
Yes.
Yesterday, it was mentioned that akala ko bago na projects you approved the Cavite Industrial Area Flood Risk Management Project and the Pasig Marikina River Channel Improvement Project Phase 4. Akala ko bago. That was the impression I got yesterday. Ngayon pa, now, the correct information is that we will be getting supplemental loans for these 2 projects. So, nag-increase ang costs nila.
Because an upgrade is being incorporated to make it more resilient. I guess they've seen the challenges of the floods and also what do you call it?
Yeah, okay naman. So can I just get in writing, especially for the PMRCIP 4? That's the Pasig Marikina. Kung ano ba yung original plan dyan, ano ba yung binago dyan, meron bang extension or modification and cost increases, at bakit? So as detailed as a report as possible on the Pasig Marikina River Channel Improvement Project Phase 4. In writing na lang po, Madam Chair, para mas makasave tayo ng time.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. President.
And then, well, how's the Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency? Kumusta? What has been the greatest achievement or memorable achievement of the agency, Mr. President?
Of course, and usually when there is a big organization abroad, for them, they are the ones to coordinate with, as you know, like for example, the Peace Corps, sila yung
To bring here.
yeah, to bring here, but I
Bring
mean,
here? Okay.
to provide also information, like certain areas that are safe for them to go, or that are actually compatible with their advocacies. So this is actually the job of the National Coordinating Council. There are also many, kasi minsan kung kanya-kanyang punta lang, hindi naman nila alam kung saan talaga yung mga lugar na pwedeng maging epektibo sila. Kaya ito yung council. Ano ba yan?
What can the PNVSCA tell us? Is volunteerism dying or still, ano tawag doon?
Is it still operational?
Still valued as as a
relevant?
Yeah, still valued as a ano tawag doon? As a driving force, Mr. President.
Okay, these are the specific achievements. Okay. PNVSA conducted 344 public information and advocacy activities on volunteerism, established partnerships with 62 government and non-government organizations, NGOs, 50 higher learning institutions, 6 civil service organizations, provided technical assistance to 149 government and NGOs on the basic concepts and definitions of volunteering for development, volunteerism, mainstreaming, facilitated the clearance and deployment of 223 international volunteers in the country and 79 Filipino volunteers overseas, monitored the engagement of 29,852 local volunteers to assist in the implementation of various programs of government and NGOs and the implementation of projects assisted by international volunteers in the country and Filipino volunteers deployed abroad.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Okay, so can I now go to the PSA, Mr. President? So the PSA, you've been asked about the birth certificates, so which could actually madali nang ma-foresee yun if you can fake a birth certificate, and since that is the basic document needed for a national ID, therefore you can fraudulently secure a national ID. Automatic pa yun. But ganito po, Mr. President, para rin mapadali din tayo. I filed Senate Resolution number 1192 last September 11, 2024. So siguro if I can read the questions and then request a written reply from the PSA, ganun na lang po.
So submission na lang.
Submission na lang.
Okay, for the record.
Kunyari, number 1. Sige po, PSA. What are the underlying root causes of the delays and inefficiencies in the implementation of RA 11055 or the Philippine Identification System Act? Because unless you contest that there's been no delay, but there has been delay, so pakisagot na lang po natin yan. Number 2, what steps should the PSA and the BSP take to establish and implement a detailed catch-up plan to address the current backlog of Philippine ID cards, production and distribution, ensuring timely issuance of remaining cards. Number 2 po yun. Ano? And then, number 3, because I think it is a fact, I don't think PSA will also dispute this, that BSP has terminated the contract with the supplier for the national ID cards. The reason given is failure to deliver on the commitment of the supplier. So how will this affect your PSA's implementation of the Philippine ID system? Another question yun. Will there be more backlogs of undelivered IDs? What is the PSA's participation in determining the supplier of the national ID cards? Ano short answer doon? Do you have a voice in the...
They selected supplier. So, yung
Pero dapat
may DBM part of their
material. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Doon lang sa
Mr. President.
specific question.
Yes, they have a voice. No. They have a MOA, but it's BSP that selected the supplier. Akala ko when you said you had the voice, Mr. President, akala ko ako na yung pinapasagot.
Sorry for that. We are all tired.
No.
Siguro
Yes,
si
they don't
birthday
have a-
boy, mas lalo na kahapon pati secretary rito. Additional question, what are the measures undertaken by the PSA to ensure the continuous issuance of national IDs? Siguro, and to update us, has a new supplier been selected? Ano short
They are
answer?
in the process of procurement.
So wala pa. Okay.
So may napili na kayo? So hindi pa procure. Okay. Nasa technical working group, November 15 pa, yung malalaman kung sino. So pwedeng wag muna natin i-submit yung kanilang budget. Hintayin natin November 15. And next week na yon.
Next week na rin naman yan.
Aabot pa rin kasi November 19.
Siguro next week na rin yung kasagutan in writing sa mga tanong. And then what is the short answer na? What is the actual status? Is there a court case? Did the supplier vendor file a case questioning the termination of its contract? Short answer lang po.
Yes,
Yes.
to the BSP.
Additional question, how can the criteria for selecting future vendors be revised and strengthened to place greater emphasis on capacity, reliability, and past performance, mitigating the risks of future contract failures? So just in writing na po yun. How can public communication efforts be enhanced to keep Filipino citizens informed about the status of the PhilSys implementation, including expected timelines for resolving the backlog and issuing the remaining PhilID cards? Siguro yung questions nag-overlap sa other questions, but siguro another question is what would be the projected total cost of this project, the Philippine National ID System?
system cost.
Actually, I believe there will be no end to the spending, di ba? Kasi the system is open eh.
So allotted is 23.5 billion
Sige.
from 2018 to 2024. Tapos they reverted 1.877 kasi nga nasobra.
Ano na ginawa niyo? 20?
Tapos they obligated 20.98 billion
20 billion.
out of the 23 and disbursed 17.52 billion. So anyway, basically 20.98 ang obligated. Oo. Pero magdadagdag.
How long have we been actively soliciting data for the Philippine ID? Ilang years na?
3 years, Mr. President.
3 years na, okay.
2021.
Yun yung active, no? Yung nagkaano pa kayo, para kayong nagro-road show or pumupunta sa mga ano. But siguro there will come a time na dapat passive na kayo. I mean, na dapat yung interesado na ang lalapit sa inyo. When will this happen?
And now,
Now. Oh, good. Okay.
konti na lang kasi yung mga booths nila doon sa labas.
So expenses for the outreach programs, the proactive gathering of data has ended. You are now just the program exists in the office of the PSA and
upon request, mga mobile. Like for example, may isang municipality or city na nag-request, then they...
Pero hindi na malaki yung pag-fund natin doon. Meron kayong fund sa office nyo for that. Kung may mag-request, you can go. Okay. Sige po, I just want to keep the expenditure reasonable. Last year, sir, during the budget deliberation, the PSA made a commitment to conduct their own internal investigation on the alleged issuance of birth certificates to foreign nationals. USEC Dennis Mapa said that any person found responsible for issuing these documents will face the fullest extent of the law. Any update? I don't know kung natanong kanina, but any update? Have we charged anybody?
We have filed with the local chief executive administrative charges, and then the names are already with the NBI for the criminal.
Okay, so they've already filed with the local chief executive, as I mentioned earlier. But then also to make sure that there's no, I guess, inside arrangement. The NBI is also doing a simultaneous investigation.
No,
So,
we have
bali,
charged- we have charged
sinabit
the-
sa mayor, di ba?
We have charged a mayor?
No. Yung mga local civil, yung mga involved directly. Okay,
meron na
sinabit
tayo.
sa mayor yung mga pangalan nila.
Okay.
They're already suspended.
So marami
Hindi pa
nang
natanggal.
nangyari. So can we just ask for a written
Okay,
written
yeah.
report?
Oo.
Okay, sige po, then we can now leave the PSA. Siguro sa PIDS tayo, because the PIDS, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, they're here, no? This is our government's primary socio-economic policy think tank. Ito po. So PIDS budget would be, so magkano to? PIDS budget. PIDS is 291 million.
The sponsor, Senator Grace po, and to interpolate, Senator Rafi Tulfo. I move that they be recognized, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the consideration of the aforementioned budget is now in order for interpellation. We recognize Senator Poe and Senator Tulfo.
Before proceeding, Mr. President, I would like to acknowledge and give my warmest welcome to the DBM family, represented by USEC Janet Abuel and all the other attached agencies. It is my duty to present to the body the budget of the Department of Budget and Management. For fiscal year 2025, their budget is 3,191,835, composed of 3,107,583 as new appropriations and 84,252 as automatic appropriations. We will also submit for the body's consideration the following items under the special purpose funds: the budgetary support to government corporations and others, allocation to local government units, contingent fund, miscellaneous personnel benefits fund, National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund, pension and gratuity fund, unprogrammed appropriations. With that, this representation is now ready to accept questions from our colleagues regarding the budget of the DBM and its attached agencies.
We recognize Senator Tulfo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Chair, ilan po ba ang motorcycle vehicles ng MMDA para sa EDSA?
Na-file ko na yun sa MEPA.
90 lang.
Sunod yung pipita. Yung ipafile ko yung pipita, yung malakang pipita, and then tindurin na.
Yung sa inyo lang. Okay. So this is with regards to the vehicles of the MMDA, yung motorcycles.
Yung motorcycle
Okay.
po,
So 108 scooters.
108 scooters. Are those big bikes? Ano mo yun?
Nasa Motorcycle Riding Academy. I guess,
Motorcycle riding.
oo.
Saan po ginagamit yung mga motorcycles na po yun?
Pang-training ng mga HP.
Training?
Private citizens training.
Akala ko ba gagamitin po yun para
Oo.
sa traffic, para pagtugi sa mga traffic violators.
Tapos-
Di ba dapat yun?
Ito lahat ay donated po, Mr. President, for the purpose of the Motorcycle Riding Academy, which is under the MMDA.
So ibig sabihin yung mga motorcycles na yon ay donated at para sa Motorcycle Academy.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yun lang talaga ang purpose noon. Wala na iba pa. Di ba kasama doon sa purpose noon ay para gamitin sa pagsasaayos sa traffic at pagtutugi sa mga traffic violators na tumatakas?
That's for that purpose, really
For that
teaching yung para sa traffic, there are 90, 36 big bikes
36.
for motorcycle units. Yan yung mga nakakalat sa iba't ibang parte ng MMDA
Nakakalat.
jurisdiction.
Saan po banda sa
39
parte ng EDSA? Nakakalat po ito.
EDSA. May mga station sila sa Quezon Avenue, Buendia, EDSA, Pasay.
Wala po kasi ako nakikita eh. May nakita po ako yung mga motor na payatot at palagay ko yun ay personal service ng mga MMD traffic enforcers kaya hindi nila ginagamit yun dahil sa kanila yung sarili. Pero wala po ako nakikita big bike na gumagala-gala. Pero marami ako nakikita big bike na MMDA na ginagamit sa hatid sa mga patay papuntang sa mga sementeryo.
Hindi daw ito umiikot, naka-standby lang yung 36 big bikes for emergency lang pag-response. Pero yung sinasabi yata ni Senator Tulfo, Mr. President, kahit yung mga naka-standby, hindi niya nakikita.
Wala po ako nakikita. May nakita ako kasi alam ko po yung diferensya ng big bike at saka yung mga personal service na ginagamit ng mga traffic enforcers nila. Ibig sabihin pang sarili yon. Yun ay malilit na bike. Hindi ko alam kung ilang cc yun. Pero ang pagkakalam ko yung mga big bike, yun yung hagad kung tawagin na pwedeng gamitin pang habol sa mga traffic violators. Parang yung ginagamit ng HPG, alos magkaparehas lang po yun. So wala po ako nakikita visible niya sa EDSA.
Nasa field office daw nila, yung mga nasa ilalim ng flyovers. Meron kayo sa Ortigas
Nakatago po sa
EDSA,
ilalim,
no?
sa ilalim ng tulay? Bakit po sa ilalim ng tulay? Ba't hindi mismo sa EDSA? So paano po natin makikita ang violators kung nakatago
Mapa.
sa ilalim ng tulay? Yung mga...
Oo. I guess kasi nakakasikip doon.
Hindi po. Dapat nandun talaga yung nakastation strategically, especially doon sa mga lugar na maraming nagsaswerving, maraming mga nagbibiting the red light, nagagamit yung para tugisin yung mga traffic violators na yun. Kasi more often than not, these traffic violators, pag pinapara ng mga traffic enforcers, kung minsan nakikita ko, dinidipahan kasi ayaw para, nakatakas. So dapat doon papasok ngayon, yung naka-big bike, habulin yung traffic violator. Which I don't see or wala pong napapansin na may ganong klaseng sistema.
So pag may mga ganun daw incident, nilaradyohan, I guess binibigay yung plate number para habulin.
So ano pong use ng motor kung hindi pala nagagamit yung para panghabol? Kaya
Hindi, parang habulin. Nagagamit naman daw para manghabol. Ilan na yung nahuhuli? Kaya yun yung... May data naman daw sila ng mga nahuhuli nila.
Kasi po ako mismo, Madam Chair, Mr. President, Madam Chair, nakikita ko sa EDSA kung minsan naawa pa nga ako sa mga taga-MMDA dahil pinapara, may mga nakamotor o nakakotse, tinatakasan sila. Tapos kung makamot na lang ang ulo, yung traffic enforcer na kawawa, tapos doon sa ilang metong layo ni radyo, dumidi pa yung traffic enforcer, muntik pang masagasaan, tumatakas. So kung meron sana yung hagad, habulin. Hanggang sa maabutan at parahin at tikitan. Kasi yun po talagang use ng hagad.
Mr. President, na na pag-alaman ko na kasi mahirap na nga sa EDSA makakabara. Ngayon, yung mga ibang bus lanes, halimbawa, ano, di ba may parang sidewalk din sila doon kung saan yung mga tao nakapila. Pwede naman kung may nakapark siguro doon ng motorsiklo. Pero under the jurisdiction of DOTR ito. So siguro dapat mag-coordinate sila with DOTR para doon sa mga bus lanes, kung may space doon, pwede silang mag-park.
Hindi, ang sa akin lang po kasi, Mr. President, Madam Chair, siyempre, ayaw natin na makadagdag pa sa pagkabulbul ng traffic, yung pag-standby ng mga motorsiklo, Kinakabahan ng EDSA. Ang akin lamang ay pwede naman nila i-position yun strategically para pag nakita nila na may traffic violator, lalo na doon sa lugar na prone to swerving, ng mga whether private o pampasaherong sasakyan, pwede na habulin. Kasi sabi ko nga kanina, marami akong nakikita, ako mismo na witness ko, pinapara ng mga traffic enforcer, nakaano sila grupo-grupo dyan paparahin nila, alam nila may magsaswerving dyan paparahin nila, kuminsan pa nga, nakakatakot, baka masagasaan sila So anyway, trabaho nila yon in which we appreciate. Now, kapag nakatakas na, wala nang humahabol.
Baka pwedeng later on, Mr. President, mag-isip sila ng creative way na yung mga nagbabantay doon, maglagay ng chain or yung alam mo yung mga tumataas na nagpuputok ng mga gulong?
Pwede rin. Hindi, ang aking suggestion po, kasi meron yung parte sa EDSA na makikita mo 2 o 3 traffic enforcer nakatayo sa gitna na merong nakalagay na parang boundary para makikita ng mga tao na sila ay nagmamano ng traffic. So meron at least naka-station na motor doon na big bike. Nakakatakutan po yun ng mga traffic violators dahil alam na sila ay habulin. However, may nakikita ako motor na payat na maliit na parang bisikleta na lang na alam natin na service yun ng yung traffic enforcer. So ang sa akin, nasaan po yung mga big bike?
Opo. It's a good point na lalo na pag may emergency, halimbawa na kailangan habulin talaga. Hindi lang yung mga violators ng bus lane. Could be other emergencies na dapat makadeploy tayo agad. So this will be studied at the promise of the MMDA chairman and he will submit to us by next week kung saan nakadeploy and pictures po. Ha?
Okay.
So,
Sige.
for your perusal in your office.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr.
Thank you.
President. Isa pa po ang gusto kong suggestion, kung hindi po nagagamit yung mga big bike na yun at nabubulok at kinakalawang na lang po sa garahe ng MMDA, baka pwede ko kayo makipag-MOA, Memorandum of Agreement sa DOTR para pahiramin na lang po sa SAIC o sa Philippine Coast Guard na nagmamando ng busway na sila po ang tutugis doon sa mga tumatakas ng mga violators sa busway. And I understand, kuminsan kasi yung mga tumatakas sa busway, malalaking sasakyan, mga SUV, hindi maniniwala yung sa mga taga-MMDA because number one, they're not armed. At alam naman natin, I'm sorry to say this, marami sa mga traffic violators natin, hindi ginagalang masyado ang MMDA. So, pahiram niyo na lang po siguro yan sa DOTR at yung DOTR ay i-detail yan sa mga taga-Philippine Coast Guard, armed and uniformed Coast Guard personnel na deputized po na LTO. How's that? Para mapakinabangan naman po yung mga motor na yon.
There's a specialized training apparently that they have to undergo. But Mr. President, perhaps let's see first next week where they will position their MMDA officers with their big bikes. At makita natin kung effective. Kung hindi, siguro nga it's time to be able to call in yung mga iba, Coast Guard at kung sino pa from the DOTR, HPG.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Now, ang sunod ko pong katanungan, meron ho bang budget na nakalaan? Pero I know na meron nata para sa mga kapote at bota ng mga taga-MMDA, traffic enforcers sa field?
Meron po.
Okay, bakit po tuwing umuulan, wala po tayong makikita na mga taga-MMDA nagmamano sa traffic at hindi natin sila masisisi dahil wala silang kapote? Nasaan po yung mga kapote at mga bota nila?
Oo, kasi minsan siguro yung iba sa kanila, Mr. President, hindi nakapaghanda, masyadong bulky dahil lahat ng mga kailangan nila, tapos biglang umulan. kailangan bumalik sila sa field office nila para kunin yung kanilang kapote. Pero apparently, meron naman daw budget para doon.
Meron. Kasi nga naman po, kung very bulky, so pwede naman po siguro makipag-coordinate ang MMDA sa Pag-asa, at kapag sinabi ng Pag-asa, uulan bukas, so mag-ready na po itong mga taga-MMDA ng kanilang mga kapote para nang sa gayon makita natin sila kahit na umuulan, nagmamando pa rin ng traffic. Because kapag mauulan, sa kahaba ng EDSA, kapansin-pansin, nawala ni isang traffic enforcer na nagmamando ng traffic, kaya pandagdag po yun sa pagbulbul ng traffic.
Tama. Oo, siguro lagi naman umuulan sa atin, no? Madalas hindi mo rin masabi. Pero kung merong direct coordination na siguradong magkakaroon ng tuloy-tuloy na pag-ulan sa araw na yon. So, just coordinate with Pag-asa.
Dapat po yung reflectorized na kapote. So, wala po akong nakikita. Ilang beses na po akong dumadaan dyan sa EDSA na umulan, kahit na ambon-ambon, nakikita ko pa yung mga taga-MMDA nakasilong po dun sa ilalim ng tulay, kung saan-saan lang sila sa mga puno para hindi sila mabasa. So, iniisip ko, wala bang budget to para sa kapote? Kaawa naman sila. At siyempre, hindi ko sila masisisi kung tatago sila sa ilalim ng tulay kasi magkakasakit naman sila. Kawawa naman.
Meron daw po.
Meron. So bakit po kung meron, ba't wala ho silang suot, Mr. President, Madam Chair, ng mga kapote?
Hindi nila dinadala. So, imbis na bumalik sila para kunin, magsisilong na lang sila. So, anyway, ito, at least it's
Siguro
calling
po,
your
gawin natin,
attention.
babaon, siguro kailan turuan po yung mga traffic enforcer na magbaon everyday para ready, always ready, parang Boy Scout ba, nandiyan yung mga kapote para umulan man, meron silang kapote na maasahan na poprotect sa
Alam mo, dapat may backpack sila, no? Na meron yung parang portable na raincoat, nandun na. Lahat ng kailangan nila, nadala-dala nila everyday, rain or shine.
Kasi sa ibang bansa po, makikita natin kahit na umulan, andun yung mga traffic enforcer, reflectorized, nakapote at nagmamando pa ng traffic. So, dito nakita ko na hindi nagagamit o wala talagang ini-issue kapote. At saan po na pupunta yung budget para sa mga kapote?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. They will endeavor to make sure na dalhin yung mga kapote nila. At they will also coordinate with Pag-asa.
Okay. Doon naman po tayo dumako sa yung buhol-buhol po ng mga wires na nagsisilbi pong panganib not only sa mga pedestrians, maging sa mga vehicles na dumadaan, yung mga nakamotor. At meron po na discussion yan sa kahaba ng EDSA once. So ano pong ginagawa po ng MMDA para masiguro na yung mga buhol-buhol ng mga wires na nakalawit, pwede makuryente, ma-electrocute yung mga tao. Hanggang ngayon po, marami po dyan sa EDSA, sa kahaba ng EDSA or kung saan yan ay sa ilan ng pangasiwa ng MMDA. Yung lugar na yon.
Mr. President, nakikipag-ugnayan sila sa mga utility companies na ayusin yon. In fact, silang mga nagre-report na pag may nakita silang ganon. So, unless meron po bang lugar na nalalaman ng ating kasama Senator Tulfo na hindi nila napapansin ng mga ilang araw na?
Marami po.
Marami.
Pero siguro po ako isang tao lang, pero yung MMDA, marami silang resources, marami silang tao. Siguro yung mga tao nila po mag-ikot. Kasi ito po ay napapansin ko at marami rin po ako natatanggap ng reklamo mula sa mga concerned citizens.
Sige po. Siguro puntahan natin ulit para masiguro na paikutan niya ulit. Pero ito dapat on a daily basis may umiikot, ano?
Yes,
Siguro,
Madam
yun din yung mga safety issues katulad ng mga low-hanging wires, mga, what do you call this, compromised posts, yung mga pundido na ilaw. Siguro dapat puntahan din ng mga MMDA. Ito bang dito sa Rojas Boulevard, yung katapat ng DOF, MMDA din ba yun? Okay. Kasi napansin ko, nung papunta tayo dun sa meron Senate get-together kagabi, pagdating sa harapan ng DOF, yung center lights doon, walang ilaw. So, napakadilim. Rojas Boulevard pa naman. Baka pwedeng palitan yung bumbilya doon, no? Kaya i-on yung kuryente.
Street light. Pero yung nasa tabi, solar street lights, yun po isa.
So LGU pala yun. Okay.
Okay. Wala ho bang budget ang MMDA para sa body cam ng mga traffic enforcers nila?
Ano gamit mo? Meron daw, sa ngayon walang budget, but they have an existing 100 body cams
So meron.
that they have used already, and it it's directly monitored in the real time dun sa command center. Kailan na binigyan? 2 years, okay.
Wala po ako nakikita mga MMDA traffic enforcers na may body cam. Siguro pati ikaw, Madam Chair, wala ka nanonood.
Wala.
Kaya nga po, saan po napunta yung budget para sa mga camera?
Maraming
Body cam.
disappearing features yung
Kasi po, yung body cam, Mr. President and Madam Chair, it works two ways, both ways. Proteksyon para sa mga traffic, sa mga motorista na para hindi sila makutongan. Proteksyon din sa mga traffic enforcer para kung sakaling pagbintangan sila ng ngotong o tumakas, at least sabihin, oh, meron akong testigo yung body cam ko na hindi kita kinukutongan.
Sa traffic enforcement. Well, apparently, there are 3,000 traffic enforcers and 100 body cams. So siguro, sa ating chairman, pwede naman nilang ilagay sa strategic areas. Di ba? Yung, alam naman natin, may mga lugar talaga na, sikat sa mga violations. Di ba?
Wala po tayong narinig na kung saan sinabi ng MMDA traffic enforcer na pinagbibintangan ng ngotong. Hindi po ako nangotong. Ito po, ebidensya ko, body cam. So, madalas po tayo makakarinig ng mga taga MMDA Traffic Enforcement Group na nangungotong. Now, kung meron suot sila mga body cams, maiwasan po siguro yun.
Tama. Oo. Dun sa mga meron nagsusot nun, talagang it's a deterrent for them. Senator Tulfo is correct, Mr. President. Yun lang, 100 lang meron sila. Siguro kailangan magkano ba ang isang handicam? Isa.
Pero, kasama.
48,000 ang isang body cam. Tapos kasama na din yung subscription. Pero, alam mo, maybe there's a cheaper technology. Kasi, Mr. President, di ba yung iba, kunyari ikaw ay Grab driver, or kahit nasa kotse mo, di ba meron camera na nandun? I don't think that's 48,000. Oo. Ayun na lang. Sir, Mr. President, merong 5,000. Pwedeng i-record lahat. Pero hindi na tatransmit. Kailangan kunin physically. So, I guess in the meantime, kung 5,000 times, how many enforcers? 300? 3,000. So, ano yun? 500? Ano magkano? 500? 5,000. Hindi, magkano yung unit na mura?
Between 3 to 5,000.
Oh. So, 15 million.
Okay.
15 million.
Let's forgo about the numbers muna. Pwede ho bang bigyan nyo kami ng auditing para ma-account yung mga body cams na yon? Kanino po naka-detail yun? Sinong traffic enforcers? At saan po yung mga locations ng mga traffic enforcers na yon na may body cam? Can we get those numbers, those figures, those data?
Yes, Mr. President. Yeah. They will submit how many body cams exactly at yung gumagana. Oo. Tapos sinong mga nagsusuot? Saan sila paano nyo nara-rationalize? Saan sila dapat naka-duty?
At pwede ho ba, Mr. President, Madam Chair, from now on, makakita man lang tayo ng ilang mga traffic enforcers ng MMDA na suot-suot ang body cam, especially doon sa mga areas na prone to traffic violators na dumadaan at nagbabiolate ng traffic.
Opo. Sabi
Kasi
niya,
katulad niya halimbawa, dyan sa may bandang Ortigas, dyan bandang Guadalupe and Cubao, nakikita ko dyan na grupo-grupong mga MMDA traffic enforcers na nanguhuli at wala silang suot ng mga body cam. Doon dapat sila may suot na body cam para kapag may hinuli sila, yun ang testigo yung body cam. Hindi sila pwedeng pagbintangan na ng otong at may papakita na talagang legit yung paghuhuli.
Tama, I think hindi naman rocket science, di ba? Intersection, EDSA, Ortigas, Guadalupe, Buendia, saan pa ba? Saan pa bang maraming ano? Dito sa may Shaw Boulevard, Makapagal ay Commonwealth, di ba? So yung mga lugar na ganun muna, to begin with, kasi 100 lang yung sinasabi mong meron tayo na body cam. Okay.
Okay. Now, maraming mga kalsada dyan na kung saan makikita natin yung mga batang hamog kung tawagin at yung bang pag naka-stop ka sa traffic, pupunasan yung windshield at kapag mag-expect sila magbigay ka ng barya, kapag hindi ka nagbigay ng barya, babastusin ka pa. So ano pong ginagawa ng MMDA para malinis itong mga batang ito sa kalsada?
Oo.
Wala lang.
Pag may mga ganun daw, they'll try first to ask them to leave, but then sometimes escalates. They're being chased with minor weapons like knives, apparently. So they coordinate with the PNP and also with the DSWD. Pero I know primarily that's a DSWD concern. Pero nakikita ko nga, actually,
Pero kasi Madam Chair, Mr. President, wala naman po mga kawani ng DSWD na nakatambay sa kabahan ng EDSA. However, maraming mga nakatambay dyan ng mga traffic enforcers mula sa MMDA. So dapat it will start from the MMDA, then calling the attention of the PNP o siguro meron silang tie-up sa mga taga-PNP na naka-ready na and DSWD na kapag nakita nila yung mga batang yun na pag-alagal sa kalsada, nakakakos ng traffic, napupunas ng windshield, etc. Agad-agad tawagan, i-radio yung sa PNP at darating yung PNP para yung mga batang yun kunin at i-turn over sa DSWD.
meron daw programa ang DSWD na noon hanggang ngayon nakasama ang MMDA. Actually, may mga seasons na marami sila doon. Minsan, ngayon Pasko dumadami. Pero ang talagang hindi ko, medyo talaga nakakahabag at nakakainis rin. Dahil nakakaawa yung mga bata. Yung alam mong, yung bata, dinadrug yata ng cough syrup or something na tulog sila, pero alam mo talagang parang pagod na pagod yung bata. Tapos yun ang ginagamit na props para manlimos. So, yun talaga dapat ikulong.
So siguro po, Mr.
Diba?
President, Madam Chair,
Alam mo ang ginagawa nila sa ibang bansa ngayon,
ano po?
Mr. President? Imbis na bata na yung ginagamit nila. Marunong na sila ngayon. Meron na silang, baka magkaroon ng idea yung iba.
Wag dyan.
Wala na, tayo na lang mamaya.
Siguro po, Mr. President, Madam Chair, like I said, makipag-memorandum of agreement ang ating MMDA sa PNP at PSWD para kapag may nakita silang ganong klaseng sitwasyon, agad-agad tawagin yung PNP at naka-ready na kunin yung mga bata and then turn over agad sa TSWD. Can we expect that to happen ASAP?
Yes, Mr. President. Kailangan talaga. We will request the MMDA to please strengthen their relationship with DSWD. At pag ganon, wag nang patagalin. Kailangan meron kayong contact sa DSWD na agad-agad kukunin. Lalo na pag may baby o kaya toddler na kasama. Yun talaga parang high ang bata na kagano, no? 'Di ba? Alam mo yung hindi normal sleep, deep sleep, induced deep sleep.
Okay. Also, diyan po sa kabahan ng EDSA, sa ilalim po ng MRT, hanggang ngayon, meron po pang nakatira dyan mga bata.
Oo, meron.
Bakit po hindi... Meron po. The other day, may nakita lang po ako doon. So, dapat po, trabaho po ng MMDA to identify where those children are. Tawagan po yung PNP, tawagan po yung DSWD para kunin sila at ilagay sila sa shelter.
May mga shelters naman tayo na
Ng
dinalagyan.
DSWD.
Tapos umaalis sila. Babalik sila doon. Ano? May pagkain naman sila sa shelf. Pero Mr. President, I'd also like to commend the MMDA. Ha? Kasi napansin ko ngayon, ewan ko kung napansin niyo po, Mr. President, Senator Tulfo, pag nagda-drive kayo sa EDSA, papunta na ng Buendia, malinis na yung wall doon. Pinunturahan na nila ng puti, yung ilaw, napalitan na. So, little by little. Tapos, nandito ba si Tol? Anyway, yung underpass ng ano ba to? Hindi. Basta yung underpass sa Makati, yung project with Japan, JICA. Ang ganda kasi ng cladding malinis, gray and blue, Ayala. Pero pagdating dun sa Mega Mall, papuntang Mega Mall, yung underpass doon, parang bathroom tiles, di ba? Tapos may mga tumutulo, ganyan. So eventually, baka pwede natin ipapaklad mo na. Kasama na sa budget na yan. Sige.
Okay.
So thank you. Continue na lang yung pintura na maayos. Okay, thank you.
Ilan po ang traffic enforcers ng MMDA hanggang sa ngayon ay job order pa rin?
Bakit hindi sila na-regularize?
As of June, 997.
Okay, out of the 3,000 traffic enforcers, 997 are still job orders.
And out of these 997, ilan po sa kanila ay maraming taon na po naka-job order?
Ang ilang average nila for 5 to 7 years?
Hindi ko ba nakakaawa yun? Tayo po mga taga-gobyerno nagsasabi doon sa mga private companies na wag na kayong mag-contractual dyan, dapat regular na yung mga tauhan ninyo at para mayroong benefits, etc. And yet, tayo mga nasa gobyerno, hindi sinusunod yung patakaran.
Yes. Wala daw silang plantilla positions that have been opened up for them para maging permanent yung...
So ano pong plano po natin dyan? Kawawa naman sila. So every year, sila po ay magmamakawa o kinakabahan na baka hindi na po sila ma-renew yung kanilang kontrata. Kasi every year po yan, di ba? So wala silang assurance na sigurado sa susunod na taon na meron pa rin silang trabaho.
Every year.
Kawawa naman po sila.
Oo. Ilan ba yung total? Okay, there are 8,000 workers in the MMDA. This is a mix of plantilla as well as job orders. So the only progress they've made, still a progress, is about, hindi lang sa traffic enforcers, but every year, at least 200 of the employees are regularized every year. Ginagawang casual.
Same way naman.
Oo. Oo.
Pero yung benefits ko lang.
Yan po siguro ang dahilan kung bakit marami sa kanila nangungutong kasi nga job order at hindi kasiguraduhan yung kanilang trabaho na sila ay tatagal pa sa kanilang pwesto. Magkano pong sweldo ng isang traffic enforcer, ng isang street sweeper?
Tagal.
Isang buwan?
Sa training.
Okay, so yung regular traffic enforcers.
Hindi po, yung yung regular at saka job order po.
At saka job order. So, sige.
Mababa po ay 780.
Okay.
780 pesos a day.
780 pesos a day ang pinakamababa. Tapos,
Regular po yan?
regular.
Kahit job order.
Kahit job order.
Job order. May benefits po yan?
Yung job order wala. So ibig sabihin wala silang 13th month pay, 'di ba? Wala silang medical.
So hindi ko ba nakakaawa yan?
From time to time daw may overtime. Yes, na talagang nakakaawa kasi alam natin there are many unfilled positions in government. Unfortunately, there's some government agencies without the proper budget maybe to open up more positions. So that could be considered, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, Madam Chair, 787, at a little more than minimum yan, pero sabi niyo walang benefits. So pag nagkasakit ang mga ito, saan sila pupunta?
Well, Philhealth, I mean, di ba?
At pipila po sa mga government hospitals.
Mga ganon.
Di ba dapat panahon na para sila po ay magkaroon ng mga benepisyo like 13-month pay at medical benefits?
Well, if they're regularized, of course, Mr.
Paano po
President.
yung mga 5 years na po, sabi nyo? So 5 taon na po silang tatrabaho, nagpabanat ng buto sa MMDA, naulanan, nainitan, kakasakit, and yet wala silang proper benefits at of course tulad ng 13-month pay.
Sa isang hospital, meron po insurance sa treatment. Covered din sila by student.
So may tie-up daw ang MMDA, guess their own initiative, kumuha sila dun sa Prudential, Pru-Life ng insurance. May konting coverage siguro to until how much? Hanggang 100,000 coverage plus free na binibigay ng tapos may tie-up din sa mga hospital. Oo, tapos aside from of course the regular Philhealth benefits for
Pwede ba ako
for all of us.
Mr. President, Madam Chair, para mapatunayan bilang patunay na totoo po yung mga pinagsasabi po?
Ano po?
Pwede ba ako magpakuha ng patunay, ebidensya na yung sinasabi ngayon
Sige.
ay totoo?
Hingi po tayo ng kontrata ng Prudential Life, ibigay yung specify yung benefits at saka yung beneficiary nyo. Yung example ng
We're talking about job orders po dito, hindi regular.
job orders.
So, okay. Lastly, yung po sa 13-month pay. So imagine, 5 years na sila ang tatrabaho dyan sa MMDA, hindi sila nakakatikim ng 13-month pay. Pareho lang naman trabaho nila, whether regular at saka job order, pareho lang trabaho nila. And yet, hindi sila naka-enjoy ng 13-month pay na nasa batas naman natin yon. Mr. President, Madam Chair.
Yung ating chairman, nagbibigay dun sa mga may job orders na at least 10,000 pesos each across the board. Hindi lang JO, ha? Lahat? Yung mga JO, across the board, lahat sila.
Chairman, so ibig sabihin galing sa bulsa ni Chairman.
MMDA. Pero si chairman gumawa ng paraan na makakuha sila ng pondo dun sa kanilang siguro operations yun ng savings na internal savings na authorized by COA, di ba?
Kasi pag sinabi pong 13-month pay, yun po'y katumbas ng isang buwang sweldo nila.
Oo.
Yung 10,000 pesos, wala pa pong isang buwan yan ng 700 something pesos times 20 days, 22 days ata sa isang working days.
Yun nga po
Working
kasi nga
days in a month.
there's not enough budget allocation for them to open up permanent positions. That's why ganun na nangyayari. But in the meantime, yun lang nga yung nabibigay ngayon ng MMDA.
Siguro po pag-aralan po ng MMDA kung paano po ito mga nasa job orders na maging regular na po na para sila po ay makatanggap naman ng proper benefits. Kasama na rin po dyan yung 13-month pay.
Yes.
Napakalaga po yung 13-month pay.
Pwede kaming bigyan ng computation. Kung bibigyan ng 13th month pay lahat ng mga yon, malay natin, di ba? Ha? Ay, hindi pala i-allow ng COA. Pero yung 10,000, inalaw. Meron silang term, parang gratuity. Oo. Pension and gratuity, no? Fund. So it's the real solution is really to regularize them. So
So bakit po natin hindi regularize na lang sila?
may mga budgetary requirements, kailangan ipa-approve pa sa DBM. DBM, ano bang masasabi ninyo dito? USEC?
Tapos kami naman 2014
2014? Matagal na yan.
ay kami ng 2014 pero hindi po na ngayon po may ginagawa kami bago sa aking plan. So yung kailangan magandang pag-supervise
2014?
17,000.
Okay. I guess, Mr. President, it's come to our attention that the last time they made the request was in 2014. Pero ngayon, meron ng bagong staffing pattern na dinidesign na nila para isubmit sa DBM. Hopefully by next year, they will be able to absorb more in their plantilla position. Yun naman pala, 10 years ago yung last.
So ibig sabihin after 10 years, saka pa lamang may para nitong
10 years ago pa lang. 10 years ago na reject na yung kanilang they never tried again until now.
So bakit na po sila nag-try? Dapat try and try until you succeed.
Oh, yun na nga. So, yun ang gagawin. Yung history lang. Okay.
kasi naging PGR for time.
Ng MMDA. Kailan?
70.
Ah.
So Mr. President, Madam Chair, so I'll take your word for it na by next year, sabi nyo nga, meron na kayong system in place na mag-i-apply sa DBM at undergo the process hanggang sa marami dito sa mga job order ang maging regular na. So maasahan po natin by next year, marami na sa kanila. Ilan po kaya sa tingin ninyo ang maging regular na out of this, ilan ba to 900 something?
Well,
job order?
Mr. President, definitely, as many as possible that try to absorb. Definitely more than the 200 on average that they give a casual status for. Siyempre, Mr. President, nandito pa kayo next year. Eh, kayo na mismo mag-assess sa kanila pagbalik nila. But it's definitely good that this is an advocacy also, Senator Tulfo, na napansin nga niya. Ganito karami yung hindi na regularize dito, 900 plus. Kailangan and 2014 pa yung last request, baka mapagbigyan na tayo by next year.
Okay, sige. Let's work on it, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Last na lamang po, yung mga pagbabaha, lalo dyan sa EDSA, isa sa mga cause niyan ay yung pagtatapon ng basura ng mga tao kung saan-saan. Ano pong programa meron ng MMDA para ma-address ito? Mr. President, Madam Chair.
It's like yung sa white place. Pag-gas hours pa rin ilalagay po tayo ng pension fund sa loob.
Sa loob
ng sa pangkawit. Talagang pagkaspagaan. Tapos pagkakain. Isa-isa.
Okay. Well, pag regular naman daw nilang tinatanggalan ng basura yung mga drains at lahat. Pero syempre, di ba, tuloy-tuloy naman yung mga tao na nagtatambak ng basura. Pero ang isang example na titignan ko, malapit sa akin yan. Doon sa White Plains, Katipunan, kung saan nagkakaroon ng baha, meron na silang agreement with Camp Aguinaldo na magkakaroon ng water impounding facility doon sa loob. So ano yan, maglalagay ng tubo na pupunta doon?
Underground.
Cistern.
Ako, dyan muna po para unti-unti i-release. Tapos pag hindi naman kailangan i-release. I-release pag i-release.
So yun. Okay, so meron silang initiative ngayon dun sa Camp Aguinaldo, maglalagay ng water impounding facility galing yung tubig sa Katipunan. At kung mapupuno, dahan-dahan ang release, tapos magagamit naman na pangdilig o kung ano man ang kailangan nila doon sa kampo. Ngayon, kung ito ay maging matagumpay, I hope that you can do that in other places.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Now, meron pong regulations sa MMDA para sa anti-littering law, MMDA Regulation number 96-009, na ipinagbabawal po yung pagtatapon ng mga basura waste matters, etc. sa mga roads and
Magkano?
sidewalks, canals. Now, bukod po dun sa paglilinis, meron na hubang na-apprehend ang mga MMDA tungkol sa mga violators na ito?
Marami daw nakakasuhan.
Meron na ho ba?
Yung mga hindi nagbabayad ng penalty na 200 pesos. Meron bang may mga nakasuhan? Ano, may small claims court?
Sa MTC po,
Quasi-judicial o ano?
dinidemanda po.
Okay. So may dinidemanda.
Dinidemanda po?
Kalimitan naman po.
Okay. Na instead po na i-demanda at mahabang proseso, ba't hindi na lang po natin gamitin sila para maging street sweeper bilang parusa o bilang sanctions para siyang maglinis
Oo,
sa mga kalat na tinapon nila at tinapon ng mga katulad nila sa mga kalsada?
Kasi minsan pag binabayaran na lang nila yung penalty, syempre mas gusto nila yon kaysa maglinis.
So siguro po, strict implementation.
Tsaka taasan yung
anti-littering law.
multa, ganun.
Taasan ang multa at tingnan natin na yung mga walang pangbayad na multa, yung parusa na lang, sila na lang maglilinis ng mga kinalat nila at kinalat ng mga kabaro nila.
Yes, Mr. President.
Meron pong 1,032 employees na nagtatrabaho sa Flood Control Management Service ng MMDA. Saan po ito mga employees na ito? Kasi supposed to be, napakarami po ito, libo. Dapat nabawas-bawasan na po yung mga flooding at littering sa Metro Manila.
Okay, there's 71 pumping stations all over Metro Manila. 24/7 ang paggana nito. So they're deployed in those 71 pumping stations. Around those. Mga nagdidiklag. So 24/7 shift yan.
24/7
Three
ito.
shifts.
Itong 1,032 employees.
Sa pumping stations lang. 24/7, mainly 3 shifts.
So yung mga nasa pumping stations lang, 3 shifts sila. Pero yung iba declogging, hindi naman 24/7 yan.
So pwede po tayong makakuha ng data, listahan kung ilan itong mga empleyado exactly na ito na binabayaran ng Flood Central Management Service. Ilan sila at saan sila nakadetalye?
Opo.
Ano yung mga ginagawa nila specifically?
So ngayon,
Saan po yung location?
pagdating sa permanent positions, 185, casual 487, job order 59, plus 400. So 59 plus 448. Kasi yung tapos meron din sweepers 31. So total 1,219 na. Ito yung sa flood control. Sa flood control lang ito. Yung nabasa kong job order na 59, World Bank ang nagsisweldo doon. Yung isa namang job order na 445, MMDA ang nagpapasweldo.
Bakit po World Bank?
May project ang World Bank at yung MMDA.
Magkano po yung pondo ng kuha sa World Bank bilang pasweldo sa mga ito?
Buo kasi yung project.
Buo yung project. 2.4 billion for how long?
Ano po ito? Grant?
Loans, soft loan.
A loan. Magkano po interest at paano po bayad dito? Payment scheme?
DOF ang nag-agree with this. Ang binibigay nila technical advice or equipment. So it's a combination of technical advice, equipment, technology.
Paano po natin masiguro na wala pong ghost employees dyan sa MMDA?
Lahat po before i-hire sa World Bank.
Yung 59 po, at least yun dun sa World Bank, talagang napakahigpit. Tinitignan talaga nila subject to their approval at saka inspection ng talagang mga actual employees.
Meron pong physical inspection na ginagawa po?
Meron
World
kasi,
Bank?
may parang
O dokumento lang po
supervisor ang
isasubmit
World Bank.
tapos pipirma-pirma lang kung sino-sino dyan sa MMDA.
May
Pinapasa.
output. Alam naman natin, no? Tapos meron supervisor din ng World Bank na nagmo-monitor.
So pakiano na lang po, pakisubmit na lang po ng mga listahan, especially na nakatanggap ng pera loan from World Bank, na masiguro natin na walang ghost employees doon. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you to our colleague Senator Tulfo for pointing out a lot of important matters that we need to help the MMDA with and rectify.
Yes, Mr. President, next to interpolate is our Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Rizzo Tiveros. I move that she be recognized.
We recognize Senator Rizon Tiveros.
Salamat, Mr. President, at magandang gabi po muli, good sponsor. May ilan pong akong mga tanong tungkol sa NDRRMC. Andito po ba sila ngayong gabi, Mr. President? Wala po sila. All right,
Sila
then,
the part sa DND.
yes, the fund, good sponsor.
On the fund.
Through DBM.
Okay, so DBM. Okay, yeah. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Salamat, good sponsor. So, bilang panimula, the latest NDRRMC situational report indicated that a total of 2.2 million families or 8.6 million Filipinos were affected by the combined impact of typhoons Christine and Leon. Hundreds of thousands of internally displaced individuals are currently taking shelter in evacuation centers or staying with their relatives and friends. These people have lost their homes and livelihood. In the Bicol region alone, more than 100,000 houses were either partially or completely damaged, while production loss is estimated at 3 billion pesos. But across various regions in the country, as many as 216,533 homes were destroyed, and the magnitude of production loss amounts to about 5 billion pesos. These figures do not include the extent of damage to various public infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, irrigation, electricity, and water supply systems, which will require billions of pesos to reconstruct or rehabilitate. The 2024 General Appropriations Act will certainly not be sufficient to fund early recovery and rehabilitation of the most affected regions. As of September 30, 2024, the available balance of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund is down to 3.9 billion pesos, with earmarks of about 23 billion pesos. Or is this 2.3 billion pesos? I'll double check that, Madam Chair. This means that there is nothing left to fund recovery and rehabilitation in areas affected by typhoons Christine and Leon. So how can our people survive? The reality of climate change complicates our pursuit of sustainable development. This gargantuan challenge should alert us to the need to reshape the 2025 proposed national budget and succeeding budgets for that matter. We need to fast-track national preparations for a future of extreme weather events. That means channeling funds to the right programs and projects, those that are science and evidence-based rather than partisan and less strategic. So for my first of just a few questions on this topic, Madam Chair, with respect to the immediate funding requirements for typhoons Christine and Leon recovery and rehabilitation, may we know if the 2025 General Appropriations Bill, as amended by the Senate Committee report, already considers the necessary funding for these? Mr. President.
21.
So now the allocation for the NDRRM is 21 billion. So that can be utilized also for the continuing repairs and rehabilitation of areas affected by the calamities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although, as earlier discussed by the good chair with the minority leader, the total level of the NDRRM fund was slashed by about 10 billion pesos from 31 billion pesos in the 2024 NEP to only 20.5 billion pesos in the GAA. So I guess this is what the good chair and I are talking about of 21 or so billion pesos. I understand that the NDRRM fund is usually tapped for disaster recovery and rehabilitation. Nevertheless, may we know how much is the total allocation in the 2025 GAB or the Senate Committee report to institutionalize disaster preparedness in the country, Mr. President?
Sa atin, 21 billion. Dito sa atin. Initially, yung sa DBM, dun sa NEP, 31. Tapos, sa GAB, naging 21.5. Dito sa atin ngayon, naging 21 dahil yung 5 nilipat natin sa DSWD. Sa QRF, Quick Response Fund. So it's the same type of service but different agency, what do you call this, performing it.
I understand, Madam Chair. Pero syempre, kahit sa overall na pagsusuman yan, idagdag natin yung sa NDRM fund at pati dun sa QRF ng DSWD. Overall, parang kukulangin pa rin para sa kabuuang pangangailangan ng ating bansa sa disaster preparedness. And in fact, Madam Chair, dear colleagues, local scientists and the experts have some recommendations on disaster risk reduction and management, which I believe should be encapsulated in the 2025 national budget. Sabi po nila, for one, there's a need to ensure that DRRM addresses multi-hazard and complex disasters. Pangalawa, sabi nila, there's a need to reduce risks posed by the slow onset disasters linked to sea level rise, extreme heat, and drought. Pangatlo, ayon sa kanila, there's a need to ensure that the flood control projects will not lead to maladaptation. Napaka-ironic at alam natin, ang dami na po nating angst tungkol sa flood control projects na yan. And last but not the least, sabi nila, yung mga local scientists and experts natin, there's a need to critically and thoroughly review our current early warning systems and find out where the shortcomings are. So all these point to a very obvious gap in every annual budget thrust. We have not been planning, programming, and investing strategically on things that we should have started doing post-Yolanda. So 11 years ago pa po, Madam Chair. While many of us are aware that the Philippines is the most disaster-prone and climate-vulnerable country in the world, we have also failed to support our local scientists. So yun, yung puntong yun, baka pwede nating balikan sa DOST budget plenary naman po. So yung pangatlong tanong ko po tungkol dito ngayong gabi, Madam Chair, how much is the total allocation for climate change adaptation in the 2025 GAB as amended by the Senate Committee report? And ilang porsyento ng 2025 GAB yan equivalent, Mr. President?
In all departments, about 1 trillion pesos can be related to climate adaptation. May flood control, pagkakaroon ng water entrapment facilities, mga ganon, river walls, dredging, ano pa ba, even irrigation.
So kung 1 trillion po, lalabas na less than 1/6, less than 17% sa kabuuang GAB natin sa ngayon. More or less, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Okay. Do we know how much is the total investment requirement to turn our climate change adaptation plan into a reality? Ilang budget cycles po ang kakailanganin para pondohan yan? 5 taon, 10 taon, 20 taon, Mr. President?
Target is 12% by 2020.
The target, right now we are,
So kung ngayon nasa 1 trillion level tayo, pero magkano actually ang kakailanganin natin para maging realidad yung climate change adaptation plan?
Right now, we're at 3.8% of GDP. By 2028, we're hoping to be at 12%.
And at 12% by 2028?
No.
Sorry.
Not
Yes,
that,
Madam
sorry.
Chair.
May projection ka. Unfortunately, there's no projection
Okay.
for now. But right now, we're 3% of GDP.
3% of GDP. So baka dahil gap yan sa ating projections or targeting na baka importanteng input sa atin sa Kongreso for budgeting purposes, not just for next year but over the next 2 decades.
Perhaps we can ask the Climate Change Commission.
All right,
for further
Madam Chair.
forecast.
Salamat. I'll return to that pagdating po natin sa kanila para if the Climate Change Commission can tell us and also advise DBM kung sa ngayon nasa 1 trillion pesos level tayo across all departments, magkano kabuuan kailangan natin para maging realidad na nga yung climate change adaptation plan. And presuming na hindi radically magbabago yung requirements na yan over the next years, then pwede nating masilip ilang budget cycles ang kakailanganin, how many years, so that baka sa pamamagitan ng isang MAYOA, yung budget instrument ng DBM, we can plan for that year on year sa kongresong ito, and then pwedeng ibili ng administrasyon sa susunod or mga susunod pang administrasyon para not to drop the ball, and eventually after 20 or 10 or 5 years kung ilang budget cycles naging climate change adapted na po ang ating bansa. At para sa huling tanong ko dito ngayong gabi, Madam Chair, okay, dahil wala pa tayong projection, so hindi pa natin makikwenta kung how many percent of that total investment requirement is already covered by funding allocations in the 2025 GAB. So we'll have to wait for, hopefully the Climate Change Commission can give us some projections para pwede nating subukang kumpletuhin yung requirement at least for the next year dito sa kasalukuyang GAB. So bilang pangwakas, Madam Chair, unless our climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction plans are concretely quantified in terms of investment and funding requirements that need to be inserted in the national budget, more and more Filipinos will remain vulnerable to various hazards. That said, climate change adaptation, disaster preparedness, and gender equity. Kaya meron po tayong pending na gender responsive and inclusive pandemic management bill. All these three must be or must constitute the governing philosophy of our national budget every single year. So let me end, good sponsor, by emphasizing that as we all know, the budget is policy. What we fund or don't fund reflects the real priorities of the administration. We must also ensure that citizen participation cuts across all the processes of allocating our limited fiscal resources, from stronger community participation in crafting local DRRM plans to climate change adaptation strategies. Taxpayers' voices should be heard. And thank you also for hearing this representation's voice on this tonight, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair at Mr. President.
I'm always very substantive when it's you, Senator Risa. And thank you for not anymore asking. Meron pa ba?
Ibang attached agency naman po, Madam
okay.
Chair. Unless the minority leader would like to. These are also just half a dozen quick questions, Madam Chair. Tungkol naman sa ALGU, particular dun sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region 2025 proposed budget. So if I may proceed, Mr. President.
Yes,
Salamat, Mr. President. Good share. Yung assistance to local government units, Madam Chair.
Okay.
So the recent Supreme Court decision excluding Sulu from the BARMM has created an urgent situation with significant implications for the 2025 budget. While motions for reconsideration have been filed and while we wait for the court to make its final decision, we must proactively address the potential budgetary needs of Sulu to ensure. Should I?
No. After this,
Yes, Madam.
after your this subject on the ALGO, I'll take a break. Yeah.
I'm willing to take a break now, Madam Chair.
No. Go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Salamat, Madam Chair, Mr. President. While we wait for the court to make its final decision, we must proactively address the potential budgetary needs of Sulu to ensure continued support for its people and the uninterrupted delivery of government services. This is crucial to prevent any disruption in the province and ensure its continued development. The people of Sulu deserve our full support. It's our job to make sure the 2025 budget meets their needs and helps them thrive no matter what the final decision of the court may be. So una, Madam Chair, tungkol sa Intergovernmental Coordination and Action Plan. I understand that the national government and the BARMM government met through the Intergovernmental Relations Body o IGRB last October, so just last month, to discuss the issue. Can we be given a summary of what came out of that meeting, lalo na patungkol sa budget ng Sulu, Mr. President?
While the Supreme Court decision on the exclusion of Sulu is stated to be immediately executable, we have to wait for the decision's finality since a motion for reconsideration was filed. The national government committed to ensure maintaining services in Sulu and the smooth transition, taking a whole of government approach to continuously deliver essential services in the region. It is encouraged to maintain the status quo for the BARMM and Sulu province to proceed as usual with payments of salaries to its employees and implementation of already funded projects.
Maraming salamat, Madam Chair, also for...
An intergovernment
Yes, please, Mr.
relations
President.
body agreed to form a technical working group tasked with developing guidelines to ensure minimal disruption to essential services.
Maraming salamat, Madam Chair, also for anticipating part of my follow-up question. So, aabot po namin itong quite reassuring na sagot nyo dun sa mga civil society organizations na dumulog sa aming mga consultants tungkol dun sa commitments ng national government at understanding nila sa BARMM government, lalo na tungkol sa pagmaintain ng mga serbisyo, pagtiyak ng smooth na transition, pagsisiguro sa status quo, pati sa usapin ng mga sweldo ng mga empleyado ng Sulu government, yung pagpapatuloy ng mga proyekto, at yung pagbubuo ng technical working group na magbubuo din ng internal guidelines. So at least konkretong action points ito, at essential yon para malinaw yung pag-intindi natin sa collaborative efforts in place para tugunan yung issue nito. Nung pinagkasunduan po nila ito, may kasunduan din ba when all of these will be put into action? Immediate po ba, or are they at present already being implemented, Mr. President?
The status quo for now. All of the commitments that have to be provided until the Supreme Court has a final decision, all the services should continue. In the meantime, a technical working group is being formed to ensure some sort of transition either way, whatever the decision of the Supreme Court will be, I suppose. And that's really quite tricky because there will always be parties that will feel aggrieved by the decision, whether yes or no. Am I correct? I guess.
Yes, Madam Chair, I agree with the good chair. And so at least the TWG is already being formed as of now. So hopefully there will be no dropping of the ball on either end. Salamat po. So dako naman ako dun sa regional governments budgetary provisions for Sulu. We know that in 2024, the BARMM allocated 9.08 billion pesos to Sulu, with 4.5 billion pesos going towards salaries for about 7,800 workers. These include personnel from the school division, staff at hospitals, and employees of higher education institutions in the province. Since the interim parliament is currently working on legislating their budget for 2025, can you tell us, Madam Sponsor, if this or any funding for Sulu is still included, Mr. President?
Salaries sa local government and also sa province. Personal na government.
So basically, status quo. Okay. So the salaries and benefits of local government
Hello guys, thank you so much sa inyong lahat. Sa ating mga kaibigan, thank you so much sa inyong lahat. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Thank you guys. Hanggang dito na lang tayo.